Johnson Adams, 22nd. Dave Bush is going to be 23rd. And then we go Dave. Dave's got a really nice looking paint scheme there. I like his paint scheme. We got Dave Bush here in the 53 Toyota.
Great start from Dave Bush. Benjamin Butler, though, great start from the top side. Also is down into the corner, almost contacting the back bumper of the 53. Jason Adams soaring into that corner, and it's all popping off here down the back straightaway.
He stayed on the high side like everybody see there with his teammate, with his friend, and he wasn't going to go down to that low line unless that 92 was clear of Dave Bush, and he was not clear.
Now on a flyer here, we'll see what he can produce. Dave Bush is a driver looking to get a win here late this season. He's had a few good runs here with Smoking. We'll have to see if this is maybe his chance here tonight to get that 53 into the winner column. Or sorry, the 58 of the Cobrine. He goes by as James Bryan, goes straight backwards. Here comes Dave Bush. Also, he's going to be the first of the new lead lap cars up front on new tires.
Into turn 3 for the final time. 53 tries to throw in the block down at the bottom. He'll take the line away from Bird as Bird slides up the track off of 4, looking to block him. Here comes the 53, and the rookie gets the job done and walks away with the race win. Oh boy.
Does he have enough from pole position? He goes up, blocks the run from 81. Dave Bush is going to win the season over here at Sim Racing Unleashed. Bush is your winner.
Hi, guys.
Hey, man, I tell you what, David, that right there, let it out. I love the excitement. Man.
Is off the back. Yeah.
Dual drafting between here. No, don't let Dave Bush out.
I think Dave might be able to do it.
Dave can do this.
We got the stop finish line on the other side of the tri-oval.
We got
It's gonna happen.
Here comes Dave Bush on the outside. He throws the block. Oh,
he won!
There goes Dave Bush. He got it. Dave Bush. Oh my God!
Finish! Woo!
Oh my God!
Never.
Before we let you go, though, Dave, anybody want to send a shout to?
But I can't say enough for my teammates at Smoking. Steven Cynthia, Hunter Hayward. I tell you what, those guys, they've been pulling me and giving me the confidence and helping me through all this, race after race, and it's starting to pay off, and I just can't thank these guys enough, man. It was awesome. But yeah, I'm happy. They're happy. We're happy as a team. So yeah, that'll work for me, man. Oh, well, first of all, I got to shout out to my wife, who allows me to do this whenever I want, without question. I love her to death. Been 37 years with that good woman.
Michigan, a place with high speeds, close battles, and intense action everywhere you look on the racetrack. But tonight we race at this track with a bigger context in mind, a context of celebration of a man and a dear friend who we race for this evening. Live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, we welcome you to coverage of the life celebration of Dave Bush, presented by Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Of course, thank you so much for tuning in. We're happy to have you with us. We're alongside Trevor Earhart in the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Flynn. We'll have Robert Moyer joining us later on in tonight's show. He's our producer and showing you all of the sights here from virtual Michigan. Trevor, of course, a big race and one in celebration of one that a lot of people know very well. He's been around the sim for a while, friends with a lot of the guys in this race this evening. And tonight, why not have a race like this at a track that he loves, that's dear to his heart, and to have some fun over 153 laps?
A track that Dave absolutely loves, and everybody here in huge support of him and his family. Sad news that we received about his health, but what a turnout we've had here tonight, Kenneth. Almost 30 plus drivers out here to celebrate his life, his legacy here at Michigan International Speedway, and this is just going to be one heck of an event tonight.
Now, of course, a lot of things we have in preparation of this celebration of Dave Bush's life. Of course, we do have the GoFundMe page, which we'll be plugging all evening long if you do want to send some donations for Dave and Gail Bush, you can definitely do so. We'll have the link there for you on the YouTube chat. We'll roll it all evening long so that you have the opportunity to support his family as they go through this time. And obviously, we'll bring in some drivers. We'll have our own stories to tell. We'll have everything ready for you as we'll try to have an amazing race this evening from Michigan International Speedway. So, Trevor, of course, we have so many drivers, like you said, 30 plus. Obviously, it took a while to get everybody bunched up together. We do have some big names in this field. I see, obviously, Steven Stemping, who was a great friend and teammate of Dave Bush. He's running the 53 in honor of him this evening, and just a lot of drivers that probably could be some heavy hitters as qualifying continues on.
Yeah, a lot of drivers, in here that obviously have raced with Dave. A lot of drivers that I know from some of the leagues that we cover here at Freaky Fast, some drivers that I don't know. Stimpy, and of course, one of the drivers that I do know really well down there in 12th in qualifying right now. Tom Sinchek, another driver that is showing a lot of speed right now up on pole. As I take that back, Brian Johnson just goes to the pole. But, I mean, just everybody here, I think, just racing with heavy hearts, racing for a true friend, true competitor, and trying to go out there and put on a really great show for him and his family tonight.
Of course, have a great show. That is going to be the biggest thing in mind. Of course, having the family in mind as well. So you're watching drivers right now putting in some of the qualifying times. Of course, Brian Johnson has the fastest one at a 38.728 in qualifying. We'll wrap up the last minute or so of this session. Still a good bunch of drivers rather that have yet to take time in qualifying at 26 on back through what's going to be, I believe, Trevor, a 31 car field total. So, I mean, this race, I think even if you start in the back or even in the front, it is going to be a challenge because you go for 153 laps and it isn't necessarily a short race by any stretch of the imagination. You're going a while, and these cars are not the easiest to drive in the middle of a pack when you're going upwards of 190 miles an hour.
No, they like to get a little bit loose on you, especially when you're in the draft, when you got other drivers, bumping you around, trying to make passes. Could see him get a little bit tight here on tire wear, depending on how the tire model is going to take to this track. But it's kind of like a super speedway out there here at Michigan. It's kind of plays the same. Tire wear is going to be a factor more so than what we would normally see at a super speedway. But a lot of pack racing, a lot of bump drafting, and everybody's just going to be on top of one another tonight.
So qualifying will wrap up. We will have Brian Johnson at the top of the board. It looks like he indeed will have control of the pole. And you see over there in the YouTube chat, if you're watching right now on our Freaky Fast Broadcasting YouTube channel, it's the GoFundMe page and the link so you can support Dave and Gail Bush and the family as they try to cover medical expenses and, of course, for their family moving forward. So qualifying is over. Drivers will take track side behind the iRacing official pace car, and we will have our starting grid. And it begins with Brian P. Johnson in the 28th fastest time of them all. Like we said, 38.728. He will be the first to see the green. Tom Sinchak in the number 8 machine will be alongside in row number 1. Nick Crawford in the 74 rolls off from P3. You'll see Isaiah Sutherland in the number 1 over in P4, row number 2. Gary Schlapinski in the 78 rolls off inside the top 5. It'll be Mark Whitley on the outside of the 78 in the 77. 7th place will go to Robbie Darnell in the 44. Zachary Hall behind him in P8. Then you'll find the final 2 drivers, Trevor, inside the top 10. Brandon Sheets in the 2 and Kyle Heath in the number 54.
The 5 of Zachary Duscher will roll off with in the 11th position. Ryan Bird will be on his outside in the 49 and 12th. Robbie Stewart will roll off in 13th in the 3 car with Tyler Dangler in 14th and 19th. Steven Stempian in the 53. The Dave Bush numbered car is going to be in 15th position with Christopher Norris to his outside in 16th. Isaac Mock in 17th. Philip Bridgman in 18th. Robert Chiswick in 19th. And Eric Jensen in 20th in the 99.
You'll have Chris Pfaff in 21st in the 22 car. Brad Delph will be alongside him. That's row number 11. Larry Blair, the second, is 23rd at the drop of the green. It'll have Mark Koschik to the outside of him in the number 33 car. Brandon Colley rolls off deep from the field inside the top 25, and Cedric Hunter in the number 13 alongside the Hello Kitty machine. Brandon Hartwell in the 25 is 27th. John Peel in 28th. Kevin Roy 29th. Cliff Ashley in the 10 machine is the last driver in the top 30, and then the last one in this 31 car field, Keith Hurlbutt in the number 7. So everybody 26 on back did not take a time in qualifying. Everybody right now behind the iRacing official pace car, and there they go. They'll roll off for what's going to be a long 153 laps here from Michigan. And Trevor, I like the number of the lappage here this evening, 153. Of course, Dave did drive the number 53 in sim. We're going to see a 53 car in here rolled by Steven Stempian. So why not? The owners and everybody that put this event together said, why not? 153 laps at Dave's favorite track. I think the perfect setting for tonight's race.
Yeah, the perfect setting. Stempian's actually going to lead the field under caution here. While we get everybody off the grid and back out onto the track, we're actually going to extend the caution. And you know what? I think that this would be the perfect time to maybe pull up Steven Stempian and talk to him about this event tonight.
Of course, we'll try and bring in Steven Stempian, who is driving the Dave Bush commemorative car this evening and driving the Chevrolet Camaro. So we'll drag in Steven Stempian, who rolls off pretty deep in this field, 15th, so pretty much halfway. A little bit of work for Stempian to do. There he is at the front of the field, of course, in commemoration of Dave Bush. So we'll extend this caution. We'll try to talk with Steven. And of course, as we're going to mention throughout this race, lap 50 is going to be the mark for caution. We'll have a slowdown period. We'll have the whole field give a 4-wide salute. We'll give a moment in silence for Dave and his family.
Hey, Steven, it's Trevor and Kenneth up in the booth. You got a copy?
I do.
I mean, Steven, you're out there leading the field in the 53 car in honor of Dave Bush. I mean, just talk to us a little bit about this event and what's going through your mind right now here tonight.
A lot of emotion, obviously. Dave's definitely a very special friend of mine. It's been for a few years, and I'm just happy that we got some great support tonight from all the drivers that showed up from all the leagues that he's been at, and driving this 53 is special. Didn't have the qualifying run that I was looking for, but I'm hoping to get this baby up front. We got a long race, and I definitely gonna be driving pretty aggressive to get this get this thing in victory lane for him. I know he's out there with his family watching, so definitely an emotional night. But looking forward to getting this thing going, putting on a good show for him.
All right, Steven, we'll send you back down to the chat there, and good luck tonight in that 53 machine.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Enjoy the show, and love you, Dave, if you're out there watching.
All the love to Dave. There's the 53 settling in the spot where Stempian will start, P15 on the racetrack. It looks like we will go green this time by. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car. So we'll have Brian Johnson and Tom Senchak, the 28 and the 8, leading us to green. So we'll have all the stories, of course, all the drivers' emotions and everybody and their thoughts about this event. Obviously a great one put together in this span of time for Dave, and obviously we wish the best for Dave and his family. Hopefully they're watching out there, and hopefully we provide for a fantastic show, maybe a photo finish to the end. Who knows? We'll have to find out. Pace car will roll to the left entrance of pit road. At the exit of turn 4, it'll be Brian Johnson, Tom Senchak, the Toyota Camry, and the Chevrolet Camaro to the Geico restart zone, and to the green. We're underway for Dave Bush here from Michigan.
That's a side-by-side equal start for both those drivers, and caution already out on the racetrack.
Looks like Chris Pfaff in trouble early on. The 22 machine drops to 31st, and I think a slight spin there as they checked up in the back of the pack. There's a look at Pfaff's Camaro. It doesn't look like that much damage on the Bang Energy car, but it looks for the moment that he has a little bit of a spill. Caution is out at the early stage of this race, and we'll see exactly what happened. But I think, Trevor, just a big stack up on the restart as everyone's trying to go green.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that can happen here. Drivers trying to close in on one another on this restart, give everybody a little bit of a shove. But when you're further back in the pack like that, the stack-ups are a little bit more aggressive and really easy to get into the back of the car in front of you, get run over from behind, and get kind of spun through the field there.
And we'll try to get the replay, of course, but you'll watch it on the opening jump when we get the green flag. Just a little bit of a checkup. Drivers trying to anticipate where everyone is going. You'll see it around here. They start to check up. There's the 22. The black, blue, and pink Camaro gets sent sideways and then up into Brad Delph on the 14 before going sideways and catching another car in the mix as well. There's Brandon Colley in the Ford Mustang right behind, barely getting through, so some nice avoidance there on the opening lap, but just a slight trouble there. Trevor, doesn't look like it's going to do too much to take the 22 out of the race, which is good news, but the bad news is he's going to be dead last in the field when we get the restart.
Yeah, the loss of track position is going to hurt him, but thankfully for him, these Gen 7 cars, really well known for being tanks, can take a lot of hits. So I think everybody's going to be fairly okay in that. And I believe tonight there are 2 fast repairs for these drivers available if they do get some catastrophic damage to these vehicles, that they can get those cars fixed and get back out there on the track.
Hey, that is true. So good news for them, of course. If you get into a crash, you have multiple chances to get your car cleaned up and ready to go back on the racetrack. And that's roughly like 2.5 seconds on the pit stall. So you're not spending a lot of time in the pit lane anyway if you're getting a fast repair. So that is good for the drivers. And for right now, we'll be under caution for the first time at lap number 3. So again, we'll turn back, and Trevor, I know we'll talk about this ad nauseum tonight. The link for the GoFundMe page, of course, we have $2,735 raised, but we'd love to get a lot more. And obviously, if you'd like to donate, you'd like to give your support for Dave Bush and his family as they go through this time, then you can go to the link right now on our YouTube chat, and you can send some donations if possible. Of course, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, the link's always going to be available all night long tonight for anybody who's willing to donate. And Kenneth, I gotta say, the community feeling here in iRacing, everybody coming together for this event, it's just great to see the turnout, the people supporting and donating in the GoFundMe for Dave and his family for everything they're going through. Just it really is a great feeling.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to see the community rally up together in moments like these. And of course, with all the people that know Dave and have known him for a long time in the sim, you know, all the great memories, you know, we saw in that opening video, just all the moments that he's been involved in, whether it's broadcasted or not, and just everybody around him, all the friends that he's made in his time in the sim. And it just shows you how close-knit of a community it is to be in racing and to be in sim racing. I think it's a beautiful thing to see, and that's part of the beauty of this race that we're having here tonight.
Oh yeah, once you get into iRacing, you find leagues, you instantly become friends with guys, and it carries over from, you know, the league you start into other leagues that they get you into, and carries over to everything you do in that. And it just shows here tonight. I mean, 31 cars out here tonight celebrating the life of Dave tonight, and just everybody out here just having a fun time.
Well, Dave, of course, loves this Michigan International Speedway. We'll see if we can get some great racing, as we'll have the restart ready for you at lap number 5 of 153 after our lap 1 caution involving Chris Pfaff. Chris Pfaff is just exiting pit road right now, but he should be able to catch up to the field by the time we do wave that green flag. So just like it was on lap number 1, we'll have the same drivers in row number 1, Brian Johnson in the 28, Tom Senchak in the number 8. So the same field, but Trevor, I can imagine that any one of these guys, they definitely want the race lead, but the caveat to that is it may not last too long if we step into somewhat of a green flag run here in Michigan. Draft is going to be OP.
Yeah, the draft is going to be very overpowered here tonight. And the other nice thing about Michigan is the amount of lane choices that you have. You can go top, middle, high side, 4 wide at times. We'll see here tonight, and you'll see everybody, trying to break the draft on the front straightaway, going all the way down to the apron, up to the wall. So we're going to have cars all over the racetrack tonight. The lead, I don't think, is going to be safe for long when you're out front, because you're the one kind of a sitting duck without any draft help. But the racing definitely will be intense once we get a couple laps in.
That's the perfect way to describe it, a sitting duck on the start. Brian Johnson gets the lead. Green flag back in the air. We're trying to get through 1 and 2. It looks like a 3-car train on the inside to build. And it looks like already Senchak getting left for dust on the top. He'll try and recoup at the exit at turn 2. Like you said, though, Trevor, we're going to have multiple lanes, so that outside, although it looks a little bleak in the middle of the corners, it is going to provide you wonders as the caution comes out. 1 car around near the inside wall. That is Zachary Hill, who parks it at the apron. I think keeps it away from trouble. And caution is out again, lap 5.
Yeah, these drivers just showing how aggressive they want to be and how hard this race is going to be once we get green flag laps going. Zach Hall with a couple of issues here out of turn number 2 tonight. Not quite sure what happened to Zach. We'll try to get that replay pulled up for everybody. But another quick caution here tonight, Kenneth, and we get to re-rack it and try it all over again.
I'll try and see exactly what happened, but looking at it here, it was the 42 Zachary Hall. Of course, we saw him sideways at the apron, but he was near the front of the field around this time. I think might have been a possible mechanical issue, not entirely sure, but you'll see him dramatically slow down in the middle of the corner, and then the 54, who's right behind him, Kyle Heath, nowhere to go, gets into the rear end. They stack up, and then Hall goes into the outside wall.
Yeah, and this was an issue that Zach had a couple of weeks ago in one of the league races we were covering. Had an issue with his wheel disconnecting, and I think that might have been what happened here. Wheel disconnects on him, goes right up into the outside wall, trying to get the car off the racetrack, and then just nowhere for the 54 to go. Gets into the rear bumper, sends him spinning to the inside wall. But thankfully, I mean, with how high or how far up Zach Hall was there, that could have been a whole lot bigger of a wreck.
It's a good thing that he did not get close to that inside wall, locked up the brakes, avoided calamity. So much like the first incident with Chris Fabb, this is not going to take Zachary Hall out of this race by any means, which is good news, but track position is going to be the case. I think Zachary might have just put it behind the wall. So Hall with the mechanical issues there. And that's one thing that Trevor, it's hard to control, and we know that in real life you have engine problems sometimes, suspension issues, you have mechanical problems that can affect you on track. On iRacing, obviously that's not a thing, because if it was randomized, it wouldn't be fair to all the drivers that are on track, but this is kind of our substitute for mechanical issues that would happen in real life. We have hardware issues or sim issues, connectivity issues that sometimes plague the racing experience, and unfortunately for Zach Hall's car, he's going to put it behind to the garage. His race is over. And wheel disconnection, tough break.
Yeah, and like you stated there perfectly. I mean, that is our equivalent to having that mechanical issue that real drivers deal with. You could have, pedals go out, steering obviously go out on you, internet issues where you're blinking in and out, making it hard for other drivers to tell where you are. All things that these drivers have to constantly kind of worry about while they're out there racing, to add to, being in a pack with other guys going 180 miles an hour.
So tough for Zach Hall. He's going to be our first DNF tonight here from Michigan. And we did have a change for second. Remember, Tom Senchak, he was trying to gain his track position back at the exit of turn 2 before we had that caution. He is now since dropped to P4, and Nick Crawford in the 74 will now take over what's going to be, I believe, the outside of row number 1. We'll see what lane Brian Johnson chooses, but just like the opening caution, it should just be the inside lane, and no harm, no foul, and just the same thing here for Johnson. I think this is going to be the case if we continue to get yellows, Trevor, where if you're the leader, yes, you may be a sitting duck, but if you get quick yellows like this, all you need to do is master a restart, and you should be golden.
Yeah, get the restart down, take the bottom, shortest way through 1 and 2, get back up to the outside wall to cover off the run from the outside line. And I think that's what Tom Sinchik was kind of hoping for. He looked like he was starting to build a little bit of momentum on that outside line coming down the backstretch. That caution came out before he could really do anything. So the inside line on the restart's going to be good, but that outside line, out of turn number 2, out of turn number 4, I think these drivers are going to be able to carry that momentum and really use that to their advantage to make some passes.
It's a little scary. I'm going to be honest. It's a little scary when you're that driver who's on the inside. You feel like you have that pass completed. All of a sudden, just a huge train comes on the outside, and there's nothing you can do. It's so hard to block it. It's so hard to try and make them slow down because they have the draft to their advantage. So we'll see what happens, and we'll probably see a lot of drivers go up there and try to get the exit as much as they can. But for Brian Johnson, he's going to look to do one thing and one thing only. That's going to be clear the field ahead of turn 1 and run away with the lead.
Yeah, it's all going to start right here on this restart. He's got to get a good restart here. Make sure he clears the 74 down into turn number 1 so he can slide up there. But like you said, got to watch out for that run that the 74 Nick Crawford's going to have out of turn number 2. Cannot throw a half block here. You got to be full committed to the block if you're going to try to go up there and block that run. But pace car is getting ready to pull off. We're getting ready to go back green.
Ready for the green flag. Restart lap number 9. It'll be Brian Johnson, the pole sitter, still up front. Nick Crawford now, the next driver to join on the outside of the first row. Pace car is down. We'll try and get another restart this time by. Green for Brian Johnson, green from the field, and back under green from Michigan.
And it's the perfect restart for Brian Johnson. Crawford with some issues. Didn't get a great restart for himself. He's going to fall back here a little bit. Actually, he gets swamped through the middle of the field. It's huge issues for the 74 machine as he still continues to fall through the field. But Brian Johnson with a great jump has the lead. But here comes the 74, Gary Zaplinski down the back straightaway trying to close in on that number 28.
And you're right, for the 74, Crawford just had trouble getting up through the gears, the sequential gears here on these next-gen cars. Here's a look on board with Tom Senchak, the driver who started outside in row number 1, now settling in P6. But a big run by the 78 of Gary Shlapinski might just get him to the lead. He'll catch on the draft of Johnson's machine. Meanwhile, they go side-by-side for third. Mark Whitley getting the best of Christopher Norris, and the 78 on the rear bumper of the race leader back to turn 1.
Yeah, closing in now, but losing a little bit. Lost about a 1 car length through the middle of turn 1 and 2. Gonna try to get that back here on this on the back straightaway. But with that restart that the 74 had of Crawford, really kind of broke apart the front 2 from the back or from the next 3rd place. But they're gonna slowly close in with this draft with Whitley, Norris, Sutherland, Sinchek, Bird. They're all gonna start closing in on these leaders, and once they get there, they're gonna have a lot of momentum compared to our top 2 drivers.
I was about to say that's part of the strategy of racing on a track like Michigan, and even similarly to the Auto Club Speedway, both of these tracks, sister tracks in that regard, is that when you're those drivers third on back, at least in this case when the top 2 have pulled away, the smarter thing to do probably go single file and not have to worry about battling amongst yourselves, and then just gain all that time back. What you're going to do, accordion the field together. Here's a look at the 77 Mark Whitley, who was started. He cleared Christopher Norris. Now they're all single file. Look how much time he's gained on the top 2. He may just have a shot at them at the time we get to the front straightaway.
Yeah, continuing to close in a big run through the middle of 3, exited turn number 4. He's to the back bumper of Zaplinski in the 78 machine on the front straightaway as he tries to close in on 28 of Brian Johnson, but the top 3 all now nose to tail, and Christopher Norris is going to be the next one to close in on this pack.
And here comes Shapinski with an inside charge on Johnson. He'll clear ahead of the 28 into turn 1. New race leader, lap 12. And how about Whitley taking a charge on the inside? Gonna get it shut off, and here comes Johnson. Crossover on the inside, back straightaway.
Crossover on the back straightaway down into turn number 3, the 28. Brian Johnson will throw it down into turn number 3, but not able to clear the 78 machine. They're still going to be side by side as they come off at turn 4. Mark Whitley just waiting in the wings to see which line he wants to go to, which line's going to have the momentum. Still side by side coming to the line.
And what they're going to do is allow Christopher Norris, Isaiah Sutherland, Tom Senchak, all the drivers all the way back to P6 to gain some momentum and build this field to a bunched up pack. As you see the top 3 cluttered in turn 1, caution flag is out. Multiple cars involved. I see Brad Delph sideways up to the outside wall. Huge slam. That's Robert Chiswick in his car getting into the 14. The 6 car will park it on the infield grass, and the caution is out for the 3rd time this evening.
Yeah, massive incident there in turn number 1. Looks like Brad Delph maybe has a broken left front toe link in that 14 machine, so that's going to be a quick repair that he has to use to continue out there tonight as we'll get the replay pulled up for you. But this just allows Kenneth for the pack, as kind of broken apart as it was there, just to restack and try this all over again on this next restart.
Yeah, they're gonna have a chance to get to Brian Johnson and Gary Lipinski, who are battling for the lead. We'll try to get a replay, but as we're seeing it, the 14 of Brad Delph on the front straightaway, catching the draft of Robbie Stewart, and the 3 in front of him as they're entering turn 1, just made slight contact with the 11 of Brandon Colley. And then after that contact, it just sent the 14 sideways. He locked up the brakes, but could not escape the outside wall. And then Trevor, by the time he came to a stop, the 6 of Robbie Stewart just comes, or rather not Robbie Stewart, 6 of Robert Chiswick in his machine just comes slamming in at the wrong place.
Yeah, looking right here at it. The 14 of Delph following the 3 there. And I'm not sure if he moves down. Looks like he just comes down just a little bit, trying to arc the corner a little bit earlier. Didn't realize that the 11 of Brandon Colley was there. Spins the 14 out and does a really good job locking the brakes down, but slides back up the track. And by then, for the 6 machine, just already picked his line and nowhere for him to go as Delph comes sliding back up the racetrack.
And that 14 Charlottesville dental care machine, you see the onboard, or the look right here, zoomed in look in turn 1. It just goes square with the outside wall, and then later on you'll see that number 6 machine come in. I think really didn't expect to see the 14 just stop there in the middle of the track. A big hit, and that's what deals the left front tolling damage to the 14s here, right, Trevor? Just one of the 2 faster pairs that he has to use already. He's going to bring it down to pit road. This time by, I think, just missed the pit stall. Could not slow the car down in enough time. There's some other drivers in with him, but Brad Delph immediately, like we thought, goes straight for the faster pair. Looks like 4 tires as well.
Yeah, the one hard thing, once you break a toe link in these cars, really hard to get them stopped, get them turned. But Delph doing a really good job getting that car brought all the way back around to pit road to the service of his crew, getting that quick repair done, and getting back out there. But now we get to restack this field back up, and hopefully this time by, maybe everybody starts in the right gear. I'm thinking based off that last restart, Kenneth, that the 74 of Nick Crawford might have started in the wrong gear just based off how slow he was and how quickly he went back through the pack.
Yeah, it looked like a struggle, and that also could happen with hardware issues, like we said with Zach Hall, wheel disconnection, but it can also happen in different ways like that, where you feel like you hit the gear shifter and all of a sudden the car doesn't really want to cooperate with that, or maybe just be a reaction, or the revs, first and second gear, some preferences are different depending on the driver when you go green. So for Crawford there, I think just a little mistake. Fortunately, everybody got out of the way, nobody stacked up, nobody caused a crash on behalf of that. So Crawford, despite losing the track position and falling back to 9th, his race obviously not over at all, and everybody else just had a little bit of a scare, had a little bit of a moment, got out of the way. Looks like we're fine, but another caution here at lap number 16 of 153. And I think this is good, Trevor, for the strategy side of things, because over 153 laps, you're gonna have to hit pit road more than once before this is all said and done. And you're looking at 16 laps where you have 3 cautions. This is opportunity to save some fuel.
Well, exactly, save some fuel, but we also have that stage break coming up.
Yeah.
So for some of these drivers, I mean, you can come down, take some tires, take some fuel, maybe be a little bit more aggressive here until we get to that point. So an opportunity for some guys to come down and play a little bit of a different strategy to try to get themselves some track positions once we go back green around lap 56 or so.
So we'll try and double them up. Lights are out on the pace car, so we'll get the green this time by. Gary Shlapinski with that charge to the bottom on Brian Johnson. That gives him the control spot for the restart. Johnson on the outside, Mark Whitley, Christopher Norris going to be 3rd and 4th in row number 2, and it'll be Isaiah Sutherland inside your top 5. He's joined alongside by Tom Senchak in the 8 machine. So try and get this race back under green. Had some great racing in that first little stint of green flag action. Hopefully we have some more. And with everybody bunched up, Trevor, I have to imagine this is going to be a chaotic race if they don't spread out like they did on the last restart.
No, I think if everybody can get a good restart here, we'll see what we expect to see here at Michigan with drivers being on top of one another, utilizing every inch of this racetrack to try to make moves on the restarts is your best chance. But it's, again, the outside line with a little bit of a struggle on the green flag jump as Gary gets a great jump to 77 of Whitley's able to clear the 28 of Brian Johnson. He goes up to 2nd as they head down into turn number 1.
Green flag in the air. Restart lap number 17. Already a good start by Gary Shlapinski. Mark Whitley, though, going to charge at the exit of turn 2. He's got some drafting help. He'll look, possibly, no. He'll stay behind the 78. Johnson going to do so as well. 3-car train back to turn 3. I think our first side-by-side battle might just be inside the top 10. It's going to be Nick Crawford on the inside of Robbie Darnell. But for right now, Trevor, all single file through the first pack.
All single file till that of the battle between Darnell and the 74 of Crawford. That's for 8th and 9th position. They're still side-by-side down the front straightaway following the 49 of Ryan Bird, and then you got the 24 of Brandon Hartwell, the 25 of Brandon Hartwell right behind him with the 19 of Tyler Dangler. Dangler looks to the outside of the 25, just doesn't have the run, but again, it's Darnell holding strong on the outside of Nick Crawford.
Darnell going to keep that position, doesn't have that much help in draft, but will get off with the rear end of the 49 Ryan Bird's draft right in front of him, so it looks like Crawford might just single file out. Never mind, he won't. Brandon Hartwell going to look to fill that space on the top. Here's a look at the 49, Ryan Bird charging on the outside of the 1 machine, Isaiah Sutherland. This is going to be for P6.
Yeah, and this is not the position that you really want to be in, but Sutherland's going to find that gap in that outside line, get up in there with that train of cars. Right now, it's the 74 of Crawford. It's kind of that low, no man. He's got no help there on the inside line, no draft help. So he's going to continue to fall back through this field unless somebody goes down there and gives that 74 machine a little bit of help.
We'll see here, though, what they do is that's the 74. Looks like he'll fill the space, so finally he goes single file and goes right in front of the 19 of Tyler Dangler. Meanwhile, they're side-by-side for 2nd. They've been at it for a couple of laps now. They've allowed Gary Shlapinski to pull away by roughly 0.4 of a second. You see the 77 of Woodley on the top. Johnson now with some help on the bottom. That's Christopher Norris in his 38 machine. He's got the celebration of Dave Bush on the logo rather on the hood of his Ford Mustang. Still side by side for 2nd, and close racing. 77 gets pushed up the racing surface.
Trying to use that side draft to pull that 28 back. Almost backfired on him as those two almost made a little bit of contact on the entry to turn number 1, but they keep it straight. And Whitley with a great run out of turn number 2. But here comes the 38 of Norris with a little bit of push to the 28 of Brian Johnson. He's going to send Johnson down into turn number 3, but they're still going to sit side by side. But looks like Whitley's going to have that run. But here comes the 49 of Ryan Bird as well as their 2x2, 2nd through 4th, 5th.
And what you're seeing right now, Trevor, is somewhat of a balance between the type of racing you see here at Michigan versus, let's say, racing at Talladega, Daytona, or at a typical 1.5-mile track. While you do have to be good in the corners, you have to be fast, and you have to take care of your equipment, you also do need help. You need drafting in order to gain positions or to just get big runs on drivers in front of you or behind, or even just to defend and play certain strategies, play mind games on the racetrack. It's that balance between having draft with you for support, but also just making sure you dial up those corners, because if you mess them up, you're going to go to the rear of the field in a minute. As Christopher Norris drops back to 5th, I think just tried to get the space between Ryan Bird and Tom Senchak, did it successfully, and now you see a great battle building up inside our top 15 or so. You see drivers side by side back to turn 1.
Yeah, it's going to be right up there with the 44 machine of Robbie Darnell, Nick Crawford, Isaac Mock, Zach Boucher, Steven Stimping in 53 as he works his way through the field. They're going to be 3 wide down the back straightaway. The 47 car going to be the meat in the middle of that sandwich, but it looks like they're going to get him cleared as Stimpy, and like he said, was going to be aggressive using that inside line, trying to work that 53 machine up to the front.
Remember, the 53 of Stempian started this race in 15th. He has now moved his way up to 10th. A big block on Robbie Darnell at the exit of turn 4, and that could have been catastrophic for all of them. Luckily, they all keep it together. Stempian going to fill that last spot in the top 10 for the moment. And Stempian, of course, a teammate of Dave Bush for so long, has known Dave for a long time racing in the sim. And Stempian, like you said, Trevor, he said he was going to be aggressive. He's doing that right now, and this is the proper chance. Longest green flag run we've had all evening, so this is the chance for him to shine.
Yeah, longest green flag run. Got to work his way up there, though. Doesn't want to lose touch with the 74 of Nick Crawford, as he's about that of 5/10 behind him, so trying to close in with that draft so he can catch up to the top 9 cars who've kind of separated from this back half of the pack as they've been battling, but looks like they're battling up in front of him with the 19 Tyler Dangler, Crawford, Sinchek's there, the 1 machine of Sutherland as well with Bird and Norris. They're all side by side stacked up on one another as they come out of turn number 2.
It does not get any better than this contact between Senchak and Dangler at the exit of turn 2. That's going to shuffle Senchak to the back end of this group. Here comes Stempian with a daring move on the inside for turn 3. He'll try to take 9th away. You're right on board with the 74 of Nick Crawford. Remember his hiccup on one of the last restarts, now just settling inside the top 10. And remember also that side-by-side battle for second we at once saw between Mark Whitley and Brian Johnson. That is completely fizzled out. Ryan Bird, Christopher Norris, Isaiah Sutherland make that a 3-car battle back to turn 1.
And Norris with the dive to the inside of Sutherland gets a little bit of tight, almost gets into the door of the 1 machine of Sutherland, but they're going to keep it side by side. Here comes the 74 and Nick Crawford with a great run to the inside of the 19 of Tyler Dangler down the back straightaway, but not going to have all that momentum to push the 38. Going to lose a little bit of ground to the 19, but the 38 of Norris covers off the 19. Dangler going into 3, and Dangler almost into the outside wall.
And this is good news for Steven Stempian, who was back in the draft and had a solid gap back to 9th place when he was in P10 and took that spot away. Now he's in the draft. These drivers are fighting against each other, so it's only giving him the ample opportunities to get off spot by spot, pick them off, and be able to get up to the front. That 53 going to dial it on the inside of the 74 Nick Crawford. There you look at the car in the 1 machine, Isaiah Sutherland, and settling right now in the P5 spot as you watch your leaders go single file, and possibly some strategy here. Top 3 all bump drafting on the back straightaway.
All nose to tail, all giving each other a little bit of shove. Sutherland's going to look to the inside of the 49 of Ryan Bird. Nothing doing there. Whitley, Johnson have caught that as Lipinski in the 78 machine, but just haven't found a way to get around him yet as he's doing a great job of kind of holding them up. It's going to be Sutherland though to the inside of the 49 of Ryan Bird. That's going to be the battle for 4th position as they go at it side by side into turn number 1.
Still on board with the 1 of Sutherland. He gets the inside on Ryan Bird. He gets into P4, so a nice spot made by the 1 machine. There's a look off the rear end of the Chevy Camaro. Look at Brian Johnson, who's going to go right on the inside of Mark Whitley. Exit turn 2, I think the 77 just had a poor exit, and so Johnson goes to the bottom again. They go door to door. They make contact. The 77 goes up the track, and this is the perfect spot if you're that 1 machine to Sutherland. And Trevor, if you're a driver in this pack, is there a certain method to the madness that you're having behind the wheel, or are you just playing it by feel as everybody makes their move?
I think you're just playing it by feel. You go wherever the run's going to take you, and right now that run for Brian Johnson is going to be the inside with help from the 1 of Sutherland as they close back in on our leader the 78 machine, but again, just doesn't have the run to really get to Gary. But as I say that, everybody a little bit loose out of the exit of turn number 2. Whitley with a slide, Sutherland with a slide, but they keep it straight. But here comes Johnson with a huge run. Whitley with a bump to the back of Gary into turn number 3, and they are all stacked up on top of one another, first all the way back to that of about 10th position.
They all met that outside wall at the exit of 2. Everybody got understeery. And with this, the 28 of Brian Johnson finds a way to the bottom. He'll have help from Sutherland on the front straightaway. The 78 getting help from the 77. Back to turn 1. We're 2 wide, couple of rows deep. And the 28 of Johnson with the race lead. Shlapinski trying to side draft.
Lipinski with a great run here to the outside. Will he have a lot of help from the 77 of Whitley? Will the 28 of Brian Johnson get help from Sutherland? It looks like Johnson's just going to come up in front of the 77 machine of Mark Whitley. Then you got Nick Crawford in the 74 behind him. Christopher Norris in the 38 as well, but it's going to be that of Whitley going with a crossover move to the inside of Brian Johnson down here in 3 and 4.
And this is what I mentioned, when you get everybody together, you get this accordion effect where at first, sure, it could look like a lot of distance from drivers that are all single file. It looks like nobody's really going to have contention for spots, but then this happens. 3 wide for position, make it 3 wide for second. Sutherland on the bottom, Whitley in the middle, Johnson on the outside. Sutherland unable to complete that spot, at least at an attempt for it. The 77 will take over second, and it looks like Shlapinski has his mirror full of drivers making moves as the 77 gets a big run entering turn 3. Won't do anything with it though.
Yeah, Whitley had a great run through turn number 2, just couldn't do anything. Got to the back bumper of Lipinski there in the 78 machine, just nowhere to go once he had that run. But here comes Brian Johnson with a great run off of turn number 4. He's going to go to the inside, but no drafting help for him. As I say that, Sutherland comes down to try to give some help to the 28 machine, now goes back up and leave Brian Johnson down there to dry on the inside line. They're 3 wide behind him, with the 53 of Stimpy and the 49 of Bird, Christopher Norris in the 38. But Stimpy is going to get almost 2 for 1 here, but not going to clear the 38 at turn number 2.
He'll have the drafting help for a moment from Bird, but the 49 will go to the outside. He'll join the 8 machine, the 2 identical looking cars on the top side. And so Stepien all by himself, although he's done a pretty good job, Trevor, of diving in the middle of the corners, or the entrance of the corners rather. I think that's the biggest strength that we've seen out of Stepien all race long.
Oh,
he's been able to dive in. Yeah, contact there for the 38.
Yeah, almost spun the 38 there of Christopher Norris to the inside there. But yeah, like you were touching on, I mean, Stimpy doing a great job on corner entry. You just see right there how much time he makes up on corner entry. Loses a little bit on corner exit though, because he can't get that car, can't allow the car to drift out to the wall, carry the momentum that he'd like. But doing a really great job on the entry of the corners. He still continues to try to make ground up to the front.
And you see the train of cars on the top, how powerful they are when you get out of turn 2, most notably. Even out of turn 4 in some cases, you'll have that top lane filled with drivers, and they just get huge runs, and they're arguably the fastest cars in the track. And you can see everybody up near the outside wall. Caution flag is out at lap number 32. It's Isaac Mock around. He's able to right the car straight with the 47, bringing out another yellow lap 33.
Yeah, it looked like a 3 wide moment coming off of turn number 4 with himself, the 5 machine of Zach, and then the 25 as well of Brandon Hartwell. Looks like Brandon might have just come down a little bit trying to cross over the 5 machine, got into the 47, sent him spinning around. But again, another wreck here that doesn't take out a lot of cars, just a solo spin for the 47, a little bit of wall contact for the 5 and 25, but everybody keeping it clean for the most part.
You'll see how it all happened. The 47, like you said, Trevor, they were 3 wide. It was the 25 of Brandon Hartwell who made contact with him, and then the 5 machine who was just on the outside of all of them, Zach Duscher and his machine, and just nowhere to go. At that point, the 47 on the bottom, you'll see here the 25 monster machine goes through the middle. So there's the 47, that gray and blue car on the inside. There's the 25 of Hartwell looking to split it through the middle 3 wide. Just makes that slight contact with Mock, and obviously no intention at all. Just wanted to race hard with these guys, and unfortunately catches the 47, sends him into the outside wall with the 5, gets him sideways. He goes for a spin. Everybody avoids him, and Mock, Trevor, does an amazing job to keep that car away from anything else.
Yeah, does a great job just spinning it there to the inside of the apron. Keeps it, locked down pretty well. Everybody avoids him, but it just looked like it looks like the 25 of Hartwell just trying to take that run that he had on Duscher there and just misjudged how close Mock was to him. Looks like Mock's going to take his first fast repair of the night, get that 47 machine straightened back out. But just a little bit of a misjudgment there from the 25. And it's so easy to do, Kenneth, when you're going at these speeds with the runs that you can generate on one another.
You swerve a little bit, and the margin of error is so small. So that's why, again, we touch on the similarities to racing at a track like Daytona or Talladega. You make those little mistakes, and it can cause some contact and create a caution, just like it did right now, our fourth of the evening. We did have drivers on pit road, change of the lead, by the way. Mark Whitley ends up the first driver out of pit road, so Gary Lipinski, who was in control of this race, will be, I think, settled in P4, but we do see two drivers that are staying out, Cedric Hunter and Cliff Ashley, the 13 and the 10. Now, both of these drivers, not sure if they're going to head back down pit road, make it a second guess option, and then it'll give Mark Whitley the lead. But if this is just a strategy call, then it's pretty interesting here. Hunter pitted roughly 20 laps ago at a 5-second stop, I believe, for fuel only. So we'll see what he does this time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here, older tires versus new tires, what's going to happen here. Looks like the 10 of Cliff Ashley going to bring that machine down pit road, so he's going to go cycle to the back of the field. But Hunter stays out here in that 13 Hello Kitty machine, so he's going to take over the race lead here. But my question is, how is he going to do on those older tires on this restart?
That's going to be the big thing here for Cedric Hunter. You obviously want to have the best restart possible, and we know that all the drivers pretty much took 4 tires and fuel, all of them at around 14 and a half second stops. So you have to imagine fresh tires on everybody else. Hunter going to be the man in charge of the restart. He's going to have to hold on to the lead as much as he can, or for as long as he can, as we're going to restart ready for you on lap number 36. Again, if you're watching right here on the Freaky Fast Broadcasting YouTube channel, watching our live celebration of Dave Bush presented by Freaky Fast Broadcasting, remember you can go into the YouTube chat, go to that GoFundMe link, and you can send your donations and support for Dave and his family. Of course, we've had some great racing tonight. I know it sort of builds up that atmosphere like if it was just another league race on a weekend. But of course, we are doing this for Dave Bush, and in commemoration of him, we are still going to have a lot of the stories and a lot of the thoughts from the drivers and everybody who knew him very well. We are going to have this restart here, though, with Cedric Hunter on the outside of row number 1, Trevor. So I think interesting call here by the 13. I'm not sure whether this is on purpose, but first driver to choose the outside for a green flag restart.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does here. Might try to just wrap the outside wall in 1 and 2, get a lot of momentum down the back straightaway to see if he can kind of break clear of the 77 of Whitley. We'll see how well Whitley can do on the inside line here on this restart. Typically, it's the outside line that struggles, but this time with the 13 being the control car, we'll see how it works out as we're getting ready to go back.
Ready for the green. Hunter grabs the gears. He's underway. Mark Whitley with a little bit of a sluggish start, but we'll see what they do at the exit of turn 2. Remember, Hunter on the oldest tires in the field by far. Nick Crawford going to take away second. He'll look for the lead, and easy work for Crawford, new race leader, to the back straightaway.
A little bit of contact between the 77 and 38, and there they go down the back straightaway.
Big crash at the exit of turn 2. Whitley involved. Schlapinski on the outside wall. Multiple others got caught sideways as well. And we are under our 5th caution flag, just a couple of laps after we got our last. And this time involves many drivers, our biggest one of the evening. And it takes away some pretty heavy hitters. I don't think too much damage to take them out of this race, Trevor. But of course, that is a tough break for all of them. They made contact 3 wide, getting underneath Cedric Hunter, Christopher Norris, Mark Whitley, starting it all.
Yeah, it looks like just a little bit of a pinch from the 38 of Norris to the 77 of Whitley as he tried to get to the inside of Cedric Hunter. That kind of started this all off. Whitley got a little bit loose, overcorrected. As we get the replay pulled up, you'll see it right here. What happened? It's all right here on this restart where looks like Norris again trying to get to the inside there of Cedric Hunter, taps the 77 just a little bit, upsets that 77 machine of Mark Whitley, and when he overcorrects it here, gets back into the 38 of Christopher Norris, and that's what sets off this whole incident.
And 77 comes up the track quite a bit. Of course, they're all trying to get around that 13, the pink car on the high side. And so they make contact. 77 gets loose, and then as he chases the car up the track, obviously there's nowhere for him to go. He gets into the 38 a second time and then sends him around and just gets a couple more drivers involved. I see Brian Johnson getting a piece of it. The 5 machine, who we saw involved, Zach Duscher and his machine. Remember, we saw him involved in the last caution with Isaac Mock. He gets a piece of the damage on the front end of his Camaro. Gary Shlapinski going around, and he parks it facing rear side of the back straightaway. So a tough break for all those drivers. And even then, some almost contact there. That was, I believe, with Isaac Mock rejoining the racetrack.
Yeah, just almost came back up in front of Mock there. But, I mean, considering where that wreck started at, only about that of 4 or 5 cars really involved in that wreck. We had Whitley, Norris, Duscher, Ryan Bird got a little bit of incident or a little bit of contact in that, and then Lipinski in the 78. So, I mean, 5 cars for a wreck that started in about the 4th position. Not bad. Not bad, all things considering.
And definitely not bad. And with the lack of damage that these drivers really face, I mean, this next-gen car can take a little bit of a beating before things happen. So, I mean, good news that a lot of these drivers are not involved heavily, and they'll be able to get their cars fixed, and they'll be rejoining back on the racetrack. We'll bring in a driver who's in this race tonight, driving the number 33 in P26 right now. That is Mark Koschik in his car. We'll bring in Mark. And Mark, of course, thank you so much for joining us, first of all, on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. How do you feel the race is going so far, and what are your thoughts about this event overall?
Well, just firstly, thanks to Dave, and I hope you're still watching and you haven't tuned to my 1,000-pound life yet, because the cautions early on are a little bit, it's a little surprising that we're having this much trouble getting it started, but then we got a good run. And I just, as somebody who started SRU and Dave joined early on, I just want to, salute Dave. That's why I'm out here. And it's all about Dave, and I hope we can get this thing going, and I hope it's fun. I hope you're still watching, man.
I mean, Mark, once we got that green flag run, I mean, it looked like the racing out there was a blast. We saw a lot of great battle. I mean, what's it like out there once we get once we get those green flag runs?
Yeah, I don't do this car a lot, so I'm not one to ask really about it. I'm hanging out in the back, and I'm just my modus operandi is just to survive to the end and get what I can get at the end. So that's what I usually do.
All right, well, Mark, we'll send you back down there. We appreciate you stopping by, and good luck during the race.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for you guys doing this, and thanks to Dave. Get better, Dave. Come on.
So that is Mark Koschik in his number 33 machine, and he will rejoin this race in the P25 spot. We'll see what we're going to do when we get the green flag, which will be at lap number 40 of 153. Nick Crawford, Cedric Hunter, still your first row, but obviously Crawford with the race lead. Hunter still on old tires and didn't really see the effects of the worn rubber. I think we'll probably see it this time. And with the crash that we had, Trevor, we have a new driver inside the top 3. Guess who it is? Steven Stempian.
Working his way to the front, and I expect to see Stempian really aggressive here on this restart. Gonna have that preferred restart line on the inside line with the 74 of Nick Crawford being the control car. So watch that 53 make some daring moves here to try to get around that 74 and put that 53 machine into the lead.
We'll see what happens. That 53 has been so good at getting through spot after starting from 15th. He'll have Nick Crawford in front of him, who is the control car on the restart. Even jump by inside and outside. We're back under green from Michigan.
And what a great start there from Cedric Hunter, the first car on the outside line that we've seen really get a good restart that hasn't controlled the race. But the question is going to be down here into 1 and 2. What's going to happen with him? He's going to go to the high side, and he's going to get swarmed by Brian Johnson. The 8 is Sinchek. The 1 of Sutherland's going to go by. Duscher's going to kind of get held up behind him, though, on the exit. Here comes Tyler Dangler in the 19. But Cedric Hunter doing a great job so far holding on with those older tires.
Yeah, Hunter on the outside lane. You saw just how many drivers got around him at the exit of 1 and 2. Now challenge for the lead. The Dave Busch car looking to lead this race. Fittingly, he does so. He takes the lead at the exit of turn 4. The 74 of Crawford will look for a crossover. He does not. The 53 in the lead of the race.
And there it is. Talked about it. Stempian was going to be aggressive on that restart. Does a really good move down into 3 and 4. Gets the race lead. Covers off the run from Nick Crawford. Put that 53 machine up front. Crawford's going to fall back to second. Brian Johnson third. Sinchek up to back into 4th position with Sutherland in 5th. Top 5 nose to tail as they go down the back straightaway.
Now we'll just watch what everybody second on back does. Remember on that last restart, they all bunched up together, everybody making door-to-door battles happen. It looks like for Crawford, he'll stay single file, all in an attempt to get back to the 53, but the Dave Bush car shines out front, leading lap number 41, crossing for lap 42, on board with Crawford for turn 1.
This is good. This is the hard part. I mean, we saw them catch back up to the 78 of Gary Lipinski when he had the lead, but weren't able to really get around him. So now it's the 54 of Stimpy, and he's got the lead. He's the control car, can kind of control the runs when they get to him. And it's going to be the 28 of Johnson giving a little bit of a shove to the 74 of Crawford down the back straightaway, closing in on the rear bumper, but just nowhere to carry that momentum for Crawford as they're going to fan out a little bit in turn number 3.
And if you're the 53 of Stempian, you have to play that game of what Crawford and all these other guys do, and you have to be reactionary to what they do at that moment. Looks like for now, they're staying behind. They all want to be single file, just want to log some laps in. You can see, it looks what appears to be a Dale line at the top of the racetrack. Now bringing Isaiah Sutherland, who's going to charge in the bottom of Tom Senchak. I think that pass might just be complete. We'll see at the exit of turn 2. I think it is, so he'll find the space. He'll tuck in behind Brian Johnson. But if you're Stempian, you really have to strategize on what those drivers are going to do behind you and how you play defense. It's very important to keeping this lead, and it makes it all the more stressful because you know you really can't pull away at a track like this.
No, it's a lot like leading at Daytona or Talladega. You're watching your mirror constantly, trying to figure out where that run's coming from and how you're going to defend it. So that's kind of what it's like when you're leading here at Michigan or at the sister track of Auto Club. Is Tom Senchak once he got passed by Sutherland, tried to go to the inside, but he's going to end up losing 2 positions to that of Tyler Dingler in the 5 there of Zach Duscher. So move Senchak from what was 4th position all the way back to 7th, as they're going to be a battle for 2nd place now. Brian Johnson to the outside of the 74 of Crawford. But when a Sutherland looking, he's going to end up falling in line now behind the Crawford, as he was kind of thinking about making a move as they get a little bit stacked up on top of one another on the entry to turn number 3.
And you saw a bit of contact. Zach Duscher getting to the rear end of Tyler Dengler, and now in that fight with Tom Senchak. They're still side by side, like you said, for position number 3. Nick Crawford playing defense on Isaiah Sutherland, who tried to look at the bottom for a couple of laps time, could not find any momentum. I think this time in a big dive in turn 1 might just get to the bottom of the 74 and clear him, but cannot do it. So they'll again stay side by side, and we've got about 6 or 7 cars in this first pack, and then bring in Brandon Colley, Kyle Heath, and then Trevor. Look at the huge gap back to Brandon Hartwell in the 25. Just shows you how much this field is separated on this restart, lap 45.
Yeah, really easy to do here. You can get a 10-car, 12-car breakaway, and if those guys behind you in that backpack start to battle it out with one another, can really slow them down and create kind of a 2-pack race, essentially. And that's what we're seeing right here, as the gap from that of Senchak, Colley, and Heath back to that of a Hartwell, almost that of about 1.5 seconds, as these guys continue to battle out a little bit of almost 3-wide action there between the 78 and the 22, as these guys, if they want to catch this lead pack, are going to need to get a single file at some point.
Yeah, they do. It's hard to go side by side and gain time, especially at a track like this. And the last thing you want to do as well, Trevor, is burn up your tires. We've seen here at tracks like Michigan and Auto Club, and we've already seen glimpses of it tonight, where you wear out that right front, you're going straight for the outside wall, whether you like it or not, while trying to keep as much throttle in the car as possible for the exit of the corner. So as these guys are going side by side, you're watching here from 12th on back, it is going to be tougher catching up to the drivers up front, because you're going side by side, you're burning off your tires, and then even if you can make these passes happen, get up to the front, by the time you get to the lead pack, your tires are going to be pretty much done for.
Yeah, you're walking such a fine line here with trying to keep the momentum built up in these cars, keep the tires underneath it, and then throw in the fact that you're going 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide, trying to make these passes and catch the leaders at the same time. You are absolutely right. If they do catch that lead pack, the chances that they go anywhere forward in that lead pack are going to be slim to none, because they won't have the tires to do so.
You see them still side by side. That is Darnell in the number 44 looking to the inside on the 22 of Pfaff. Remember, Pfaff involved in our opening caution lap number 1, so pretty good recovery here for the 22. Sideways go the 44, and Pfaff will have that pass completed. He'll defend that spot, and now he'll look forward to Mark Whitley, Brandon Sheets, and Gary Schlapinski, who all run in the spots right in front of him. Gary Schlapinski, Mark Whitley as well, Trevor, to note, they have 4-lap fresher tires than everybody up at the front, so you're seeing them making a lot of good progress, as Whitley almost makes contact near that spot with the number 2 of Brandon Sheets. These drivers are gaining all this time. They've got some fresh rubber by a couple of laps, so that does mean a lot for them.
It means a lot. They're a little bit better in the corner, can carry a little bit more speed, and you just saw Whitley try to carry that car out, carry the momentum, gets into the 2 of Sheets there a little bit, but we're closing in on that stage break here at lap 50 for these guys. So trying to get every little bit of position that they can to get their a little bit better of a pit entry and try to make up some track position.
We'll have our salute. We'll have the caution thrown at 50, but look at this battle for second. Isaiah Sutherland trying all that he can to get the spot ahead of Brian Johnson. Steven Stampian leads him to the line at lap number 50. We'll see when the caution officially gets thrown by race control, but this is the best case scenario. The Dave Bush car in front in the life celebration of Dave Bush race here at his favorite track. Stempian going to try and defend. Johnson and Sutherland, a possible last opportunity to get the lead before the caution comes out.
It's going to be the last chance, last dash for Brian Johnson to get the lead before that stage break caution is going to come out. But I mean, how fitting to see the 53, the Dave Bush machine driven by Steven Stempian, out front here at the stage break in the celebration of life of Dave Bush. And as there's the caution, it's going to be the 53 of Stempian that gets it done here. We'll have our salute after the pit stops, but what a first 51 laps we had here tonight.
Wow. A lot of great racing. Obviously some cautions in the midst, but some great battles, 3 wide, 2 wide through the field. And it is Steven Stempian who started 15th in this race, now at the first spot. So a gorgeous effort by Stempian, and he'll take control of the lead with the iRacing official pace car right in front of him. They'll slow it down for it. Isaiah Sutherland, by the way, Trevor, doing a great job of getting a second exit turn 4.
Yeah, you had a really good run there off of Brian Johnson. I got to give Sutherland credit as well. I mean, really was a lone warrior on that inside line trying to make those passes to get up there. We saw him do it a couple of times, did it to the 8 of Sinchek, the 74 of Crawford, and then eventually right there at the end of Brian Johnson. So just showing you, hey, I can use that inside line, be aggressive. And Sutherland, I think, might be one that we have to talk or watch out for all night long.
So here come the leaders on for pit road. Steven Stempian bringing them all down. Isaiah Sutherland, Brian Johnson, your top 3. And just like one of our last stops we had from the large group of drivers, it is probably going to be 4 fresh tires and some fuel. So Stempian goes in first. Everybody else will follow through. And we'll see exactly how the battle out of pit road fares out for each and every one of these guys. I think one driver just overshot the pit stall. That might have been the 5 machine of Duscher. I think it might, indeed it was. So the 5 machine going to be with a little bit of lost time. Brandon Colley is going to stay out. As for the battle off of pit road, it looks like it might just go to Stempian. Close battle with Brian Johnson. I think Johnson got him by an inch.
Yeah, it's going to be the advantage of having that first pit box there for the 28 of Brian Johnson. Our pole sitter gets the advantage on the short pit road exit that he has to take there. Going to get that spot from the 53 of Stempian, but that's going to be a really good restart battle between those 2 drivers. Stempian going to be aggressive, try to get that lead back, and Brian's going to be just as aggressive trying to hold on to it.
So they will extend the yellow flag with Brandon Colley out in the front, Brian Johnson in second, Steven Stempian in third, Isaiah Sutherland and Nick Crawford to the last spots inside your top 5. We roll with our 6th caution flag of the evening, but of course this is by design from race control, and we'll have everybody in a 4-wide salute in honor of Dave Bush and his family. And obviously, again, we always remind ourselves what this race is all about. We've had some great racing, and it's very easy, Trevor, to get lost in it and obviously to enjoy the moment, but we do have some heavy hearts, and these drivers in this community putting this on for a really good purpose as they go 4 wide, cross the stripe in salute. We'll have a moment of silence.
Hang on, we're not going green. Hang on, we're not going green.
Nothing but love for Dave Bush as the field will bunch themselves again. Double file. Brandon Colley, of course, your race leader. He had stayed out as the field came down for pit road. Brian Johnson, will remind you, on the outside in second. Steven Stepien, who was the leader at the time of the last yellow for the break, ends up third. Isaiah Sutherland and Nick Crawford for your top five. An emotional moment there, of course. All the love, and we wish the best for Dave Bush and his family. Of course, always reminding why we're putting this event on. And again, if you are watching right now on the Freaky Fast Broadcasting YouTube channel, you can put some donations in the GoFundMe for Dave and his family. Of course, any amount of support, regardless of the amount, is appreciated. And we do, of course, thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the life celebration of Dave Bush at Michigan International Speedway. So Trevor, just fresh off of the pit stops, now we have Brandon Colley at the front. I think in the same situation of Cedric Hunter, he's probably thinking, oh no, because the whole field is going to be coming by the time we get to 1 and 2 on the restart.
Yeah, he's going to be definitely a sitting duck, just like Cedric Hunter was, unless he decides to pull down pit road right now, as we still got, I believe, one more lap of pacing as the lights are still on the pace car. But Colley, I mean, if he decides to stay out and chooses the inside line, I mean, this could really hurt that of Stympian, the 74 of Crawford, Zach Duscher there in the 5. This could really stack up that inside line and make this restart really interesting.
And we'll see if he does the same approach that Cedric Hunter did on the restart where he had the oldest tires. It looked like he just held the outside, gave everybody the positions, didn't really give too much resistance. But the problem for Colley here is that he's on the inside. He's not where Hunter was on that restart where Hunter let everybody by. He was on the top of row number 1. Colley's on the bottom. So this is some concern if you're drivers like Steven Stepien, if you're drivers like Nick Crawford, everybody on that inside lane. You're going to have to watch for that 11 and see what he does, because if he stacks up the field, you don't want to be put back in track position and have a dire situation on your hands at around this point in the race when an old tire car is just right in front of you and trying to get around him safely. That's going to be the biggest concern for those drivers. So we'll see what happens, but Colley in the race lead. The good news for him is that he will have the opportunity to gain some car lengths, I think, Trevor, before they get to turn 1, but obviously exit turn 2 is where everything's going to shift.
Yeah, he's going to have the chance to clear the 28 of Brian Johnson, possibly, just depending on how good of a restart Brian's going to get in that 28 Toyota. But like you said, it's going to be out of turn number 2 where we're really going to see that 11 car start to fall through the field, and we can kind of find ourselves in a similar situation to what we saw toward the end of that last run, where if Colley slides through the field, could really kind of separate the pack depending on where everybody gets kind of stuck battling him. So something we'll have to watch out for as the pace car is getting ready to pull off, and we're getting ready to go back green here on lap 55.
That's a great point. We saw a lot of separation as a result of that old tire car staying out. We'll see what happens and if it falls the same way for Brandon Colley and company. Pace car is down. Colley's up and away. We're back under green from Michigan, lap number 56. And this time, a gorgeous restart for Colley. He'll pull away by roughly 0.2 of a second. Brian Johnson, Steven Stepien battle for second into turn 1.
It's going to be that battle for second. That's still going to continue side by side. They're going to close in on that 11 machine of Brandon Colley. A little bit of a looseness from the 53 of Stympian as he's not going to get a great run. That's going to allow Sutherland to his outside with help from the 8 of Tom Sinchek. So Stympian going backwards in that 53 machine. Colley holds on to the lead. But as I said that, here comes Sutherland with a huge dive in turn number 3 and 4. He's looking to the inside to clear that 11 machine off of turn number 4.
And this is what Sutherland, by the way, has been working on. Prior to that break at lap number 50, we saw him do this to Brian Johnson, and the driver's inside the top 3. This time uses it to full effect, takes the lead. Brian Johnson looks to respond on the outside of turn 1. Colley going to give way to the field, but still holding on strong. He'll remain in P4. Stepien moves to the inside. Johnson side drafts the 1 at the exit of 2. He takes the lead away.
Takes the lead away with a really good side draft move there down the backstretch. But here comes the 53 of Stimpy and the 11 of Colley doing a great job on those old tires right now, hanging on with that draft help. He's got the 8 of Tom Sinchek to his inside as Sinchek clears it. But here comes the 74 of Crawford, the 54 of Kyle Heath as well. He's going to pull up behind the 11, give the 11 a little bit of a draft help down the front straightaway. Sutherland again to the inside of Brian Johnson for the lead down the front straightaway. They're going to be 2 by 2 heading off into turn number 1.
And this is perfect for Brandon Colley. 19 laps, older tires than everyone else, and still holding strong inside your top 10. Schlapinski finds a way to P6. How about 3 wide on the back straightaway? Nick Crawford going to look to make it happen all by himself on the bottom. 3 cars strong on the top, 2 cars in the middle as Sutherland falls back and Schlapinski remains middle 3 wide in 3 and 4.
And it could be 4 wide here off of turn number 4 as Colley a little bit tight. Those older tires really starting to show as he's going to have a little bit of help here from Duscher in the 5 machine. That of Whitley trying to help the 74, but decides to think better of helping Nick Crawford on that inside line. Everybody's still side by side heading into turn number 1. 3 wide in front of him with Sutherland, Lipinski, the 8 of Sinchek. They get 2 by 2 now as Lipinski going to be side by side with Sinchek. As a little bit of contact made, and there goes the 78 to the inside, but he keeps it straight.
Schlapinski keeps it controlled, saves the car. He'll drop in track position. And I was about to mention how hungry he's been since he got involved in that crash. At the exit of turn 2 a while back, we saw him fall back to the field, got up on a different set of tires, moved his way back up, and had that opportunity to slash inside the top 5. Look at the contact, 3 wide. That's the 25 of Hartwell in the middle, Kyle Heath on the bottom, and they keep it straight.
Keep it straight, and again, that's all circulating around the 11 of Brandon Colley on those old tires. Lipinski, after his little escapade down the back straightaway, he's going to be back up in this mix now, side by side with Crawford, but he gets a little bit loose on the exit of turn number 2. Maybe a little bit of heat in those rear tires, making that 78 slide around, but he's going to fall in front of the 11 of Brandon Colley. Going to be side by side now with the 19 of Tyler Dangler, but there's a caution.
Caution is out. Ryan Bird sideways in the corner. The 49 saves it. Skips through the grass, but yellow is out again. Lap number 60 of 153. And we'll see what happened with Bird as he got in trouble, I think, all by himself, but might have had some help, Trevor. It looks like the 14, Brad Delph, got into him.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of help there, but chance to catch our breath here, Kenneth. Chance to catch our breath and get all these drivers stacked up and see what happens on this next restart.
We'll see what happens. We'll give you the replay, but we'll give you everything that happens on the other side. You're watching coverage of the life celebration of Dave Bush, presented by Freaky Fast Broadcasting from Michigan. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back to the life celebration of Dave Bush at Michigan International Speedway, presented by Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Kenneth Bueno and Trevor Earhart along with you in the booth. Robert Moyer, our producer, will have him join the booth in just a little bit as we keep things rolling here from the Irish Hills. Ready to go back to green at lap number 64 of 153. Brian Johnson and Steven Stempian have been some of the heavy hitters all night long at the front of the field. Looks like they'll be clashing once more. The Clash of the Titans, as we'll call it, here as we have roughly an hour left of racing if we take it green. Our last caution involving Ryan Bird got sideways in the middle of the corner. He rejoins this race from 26th on the racetrack. Pace car is down, entrance of pit road. Brian Johnson will have control. It's in his hands. Stempian looking to react. It's an even jump by both of your leaders. We're back under green.
Question's going to be who's going to get the help here, who's going to get the better run in the 1 and 2. It's going to be side by side, Stempian, that of Johnson. Johnson going to go with a little bit of a dive, see if he can clear up in front of the 53 of Stempian. He's going to do so. The 8 of Sinchek is going to be there as well. A little bit of a wiggle from both our front two drivers, but they keep it going straight. No run from the 53 machines. That of Sinchek with a little bit of a run to the back bumper, but they're going to be single file going into turn number 3.
That first side-by-side battle inside your top 5 fizzled out rather quickly with Zach Duscher going against the 77 Mark Whitley. Looks like Whitley will try again. His hand on the bottom, exit turn 4. He'll make that pass almost complete. Might have some drafting help from Isaiah Sutherland, but you watch that third place car, Trevor, of Tom Senchak. He started second in this race, dropped all the way back, and has been kind of meandering around the top 10 or so all race long. Now he's got a shot at the top 2 once more for Senchak. Are you going to be looking for a little redemption, or are you going to try and strategize this race and hoping it would stay green?
Oh, as Whitley gets a little bit of contact help, he's going to go sliding to the inside, down the back straightaway. He keeps it straight back up the racetrack in front of the 25 there, right behind the 78 of Lipinski, so those two can't seem to get separated from one another. They were battling for the lead at one point, involved in a wreck, and now both have had excursions down the back straightaway, and they're going to be, again, nose to tail.
The good thing is both of them save the cars. Both of them keep this race intact and under green. Lipinski going to get to the back bumper of Whitley as Whitley falls back to 8th. Remember, he was in that battle for around P5 or so with Zach Duscher. They might go side by side for position ahead. The one of Sutherland looking to the bottom. Can't quite make anything of it. Sutherland breaks up everybody in the back end of this top 10. And here comes Kyle Heath. Help from Nick Crawford for turn 3.
Yeah, Heath is going to be the first car to the inside to try to make a move. He's going to try to get around the 5 of Duscher, try to get to the inside of the 1 of Sutherland. Not going to be able to do so. Gets a little bit loose, though, on corner exit. That's going to allow the 5 machine to get back to his outside. Nick Crawford's going to try to follow suit, close that hole, and it looks like Heath had a chance to come up in front of the 74, but thinks better of it and going to give that position up.
And as we're watching these drivers make moves on the bottom, it looks like a slide job move, Trevor, might just be the one to make, because in the middle of the corner, and especially getting to the exit, if you can't find the run, that outside is really going to get you every single time. So if you're a driver making the moves on the bottom, are you somewhat giving up on that philosophy, or are you still going to try your hardest, just regardless of the circumstance?
I think you've got to try your hardest. I mean, if everybody's running the outside line, there's nowhere to go. So you got to try to make up positions on the bottom. You got to try to make that work for yourself. And if that means you throw an aggressive slide job, you throw an aggressive slide job. But it's about blocking that run that's going to inevitably come from the car behind you, and how you handle that is, it looks like the 78 or 77 of Whitley, the 78 is Lipinski. They're going to be 2 aggressive drivers down there on the bottom of turn number 2, 3 wide with the 54 and the 74. But you can see it right there, Whitley just doesn't get the run off the corner, and it stacks everybody up behind him.
You know, it looks like at one point that they overdrive the corner, but they always make it every single time. Whitley and Lipinski doing masterclass moves on the bottom. Lipinski, though, not able to find success that Whitley has been able to find, as Whitley side drafts on Nick Crawford. Then we'll get the spot lost by Kyle Heath. Here comes Brandon Hartwell. And apart from this side-by-side battle, Trevor, all single file at the front. You figure that they maybe are just waiting for a long run to creep in for them to make these moves, especially for Steven Stempian. Now 3 wide in the midst of the group. Sutherland in the middle, almost contact with Crawford.
Almost contact with Crawford. Contact between Whitley and then the 54 of Kyle Heath, and Whitley now getting a little bit of help from Lipinski in the 78. Here comes the 22 of Chris Pfaff. I mean, he was a first caution of the race on the initial start of the race. That 22 machine with a great recovery drive for himself up here into 11th position, almost inside the top 10. But it's going to be that battle with Whitley, trying to get to the inside now of Hartwell, but they're all going to go single file now in our top 11, all nose to tail.
Now just waiting for a move to come out of nowhere, so at least they can try and do their best. The last thing you want to have happen to you is get stuck on the bottom, have a freight train happen to you on the top, and then all of a sudden you're going from 5th, 6th on the racetrack back to around 12th or so, and then you have no other option. Whitley, though, is trying his dearest to make moves on the bottom. Can't quite do it on Brandon Hartwell this time by, and so they'll fan out the entrance of 3 and 4. Meanwhile, Brian Johnson in the 28 still in clear command of this race. You're watching amazing racing here tonight from the Michigan International Speedway, and countless times throughout our broadcast already we've been talking about the sister track in California. Look at Whitley making contact there right in front of Brandon Hartwell for turn 1, but we talk about the similar racing that you'll find at Auto Club Speedway, California, the home state of Dave Bush, where he was born and raised in Fresno, California, and stayed there, went to Clovis Speedway over his lifetime as he went to go watch super modifieds back in the day, which they used to call hardtops at that time. A huge fan. Eventually moved over to Oregon, but California, the main state for Dave Bush, and a little bit of history. I can imagine why he likes Michigan, similar to Auto Club, and great racing you find here all around.
Yeah, great racing that you'll find here at Michigan, and even equally as great racing at Auto Club. So sad to see that track go away. I'm sure as a hometown Californian that Dave Bush is, it's sad to see that track go away and turn into a high bank short track, but I mean, just showing you why these two racetracks are considered two of the greatest tracks in NASCAR with the type of action that it puts on. I mean, we've got two wide moves. Here goes Sutherland with a crossover move to the 74 of Crawford. Inside goes Lipinski to the 54 of that of Heath, and they're almost 3 wide with Crawford. Crawford's now going to get the run back on Sutherland, and here comes Mark Whitley.
There's so much hunger out of that 78 and the 77. You can tell how aggressive they're being. They want every single position they can get, and they're not afraid to go to the extent that they have been able to go through to make those spots happen. And another huge dive by Lipinski. He almost makes them look like they're standing still on the outside. The one in the 54, though, going to get back on the high side, and they'll be able to defend their spots. Whitley going to get the support on the bottom. And so this is only going to get tougher as the tires were out for both the 78 and the 77. But up at the front, Steven Stempien looking to chase behind Brian Johnson. We may just be 3 wide. Nick Crawford stuck at the top, and he will be at the exit of turn 4. 3 wide for a moment, settles back to 2.
Settles back to 2. Sutherland's going to be to the inside. He's got a little bit of drafting help behind from Lipinski and the 77 of Whitley, but he's going to go back up now and cover off the 54 of Kyle Heath, and now drop back to the bottom, but caution's out on the racetrack.
Caution is out. We'll find out exactly who was involved. I saw some smoke and a driver in the outside wall. It's Brandon Hartwell in the 25. Remember at one point we saw him inside the top 10 running well, and it looks like had some problems with Chris Pfaff in the 22 entering turn 1. So somewhat similar, I think, Trevor, to the incident that we saw with Brandon Colley and Delph in the entrance of the corner. It just looked like the 25 makes that slight contact with a 22, maybe just in an attempt to side draft, and once you make that contact, it's hard to get away from each other. We'll get the replay, but you'll watch that 25 facing backwards against the outside wall.
Yeah, it looks like right here, coming into what would be the entry to turn number 1, maybe just each driver trying to get their own little arc in, a little too close to really do that, makes contact, and then just a 2-car incident as the 25 of Hartwell just gets stuck up into the outside wall. Pfaff, eventful race for himself so far. Caught up in that first caution, now caught up in this caution. But again, the 22 machine comes off pretty well out of that wreck. Maybe a little bit of a right side damage for himself, and as well for Hartwell, some left side damage for him as he's driver's side into the outside wall. But should be good to go. Maybe 4 fresh tires on that 25 machine and see if he can get back up to the top 10.
And now we wonder as well what the leaders will do if they're going to come down to pit road as well. They pitted around 23 laps ago, so I think this is pretty much a standard run to go get 4 fresh tires and some fuel. And here at Michigan, we've seen, I believe, 100% fuel by the drivers on the racetrack, so you're looking probably around 35, 40 laps under green before you inevitably have to come in before it runs dry. This is perfect for all the drivers up at the front. So Brian Johnson, Steven Stempien, and Zach Duscher going to be the top 3 as we come in for pit road. And Duscher, one of the drivers, as we are going to note here, is one of the only drivers inside the top 10 to have used one of his 2 available faster pairs this evening. So just a little note there for Duscher. Got to be a little more careful, and he's done a great job, though, of keeping his Chevrolet Camaro clean. So as the leaders are on pit road, it'll be our time to bring in our 3rd member of the broadcast booth. He's been in the broadcast the entire time. He's been our producer this evening, but we'll have him as a commentator, and we'll get some of his thoughts. Robert Moyer, first of all, thank you for joining us, and you've been doing amazing on the production thus far tonight from Michigan, but just give us your thoughts about this race, this event, and your thoughts on Dave Bush.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Trevor. You guys are calling an excellent race, and hopefully everybody out there's enjoying the show here tonight at Michigan. But my thoughts about this race is that, you know, it's for Dave Bush, a longtime friend, known him for 2 years, and basically I could just say there's not much words that I could say out there, but, you know, to him, but to his family, God bless him, you know, God bless him and his family. But overall for the racing here tonight, Ken, wow, man, these guys are showing some battle, and you got guys trying to make that low line work. You got the high line definitely working. Lining up, these guys are calling it the way you're seeing it, and I just think this is going to really come down here. When we get closer to the end, this race is going to really heat up, I do believe.
Yeah, the racing has been absolutely exciting. I don't think anyone can deny that whatsoever, and, you know, it's been so fun watching these drivers out on the track. But one thing, like yourself, from Robert, you knew Dave Bush very well. Drivers in this race know Bush very well. So I mean, just walk us through what it means for them as drivers, and for you now watching this race. I mean, them putting on a great show for Dave and his family, and just the entire effort all together as a sim racing community.
Well, as a sim racing community, yeah, all these guys showed up here tonight at Michigan to race his favorite track. And it's funny that it's his favorite track because it's actually my favorite track too. So we have something in common there. As for the drivers out there, Ken, you know, it means a lot to them. They raced against him for 2 years, 2.5 years, and some of them maybe a little longer and some of them maybe a little shorter. But still, Ken was always there, that guy that helped everybody out on paint jobs. Steven Stempian helped on paint jobs. And I remember back in the day, this is talking a couple years ago now here, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we started broadcasting Sim Racing Unleashed on Sunday nights, and that's where I met Dave at. And when I met Dave, we just started clicking and hanging out, and we got to see him get his first win in sim racing under, you know, Freaky Fast banner. So that's a pleasure to have. We've seen the highlight reel at the beginning of the show of his wins and everything that he's been through, the good and the bad and the ups and the downs of sim racing. So yeah, for me in general, this is awesome. For the drivers, it's awesome. But you know what would be more awesome is once we go back green, stay green, and one of these drivers, you know, bring it home and get that win for Dave Bush, as that pace car is going to duck in, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to get ready to get freaky fast, freaky crazy, and freaky nuts.
I was about to say, green flag back in the air, and it is the Dave Bush sticker on the hood of Christopher Norris's Ford Mustang, who brings us back to the restart. Brian Johnson, though, immediately going for the bottom. He takes the lead once more. Senchak looking to fight against the 38. Exit turn 2, and here comes Crawford, almost making it 3 wide.
Crawford looked to take it 3 wide. Now looking to the outside. Now tucking back in behind the 8. He's going to try to push him past the 38 of Christopher Norris, the 14 of Brad Delph. Two drivers that I think just took 2 tires and maybe fuel only on that pit stop to cycle up to the front. They're going to be in a little bit of a struggle situation here as Norris is going to go high. Here comes the 74 Crawford, the 53 now of Stempian's going to look to take it all the way down to the apron in that 53 machine to try to get around Norris and get around Crawford. Here comes the 5 of Duscher with a big run down the front straightaway, as well as he's going to dive into the inside of Christopher Norris into turn number 1.
You get to the bottom, Duscher down low. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, we got Steven Stempian there, Ken, you know, starting to show back up here again. A little loose coming out of turn 2 there, but down the backstretch as Nick Crawford's going to try to cut him off and maybe grab that side draft there from him. But we'll see what they can do. But Steven Stempian is on a mission tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And if anything, he's going to want to win this race, Ken.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And if you're bearing the Dave Bush colors in the Dave Bush celebration race, you have to give yourself that expectation of winning and no exceptions. He's going to be all by himself on the bottom, though. Get freight trained by the cars up top. No concerns for him as he gets the momentum back in the middle of the corner. And Duscher is going to be able to fight back. They almost make contact. Duscher slides the car sideways, but he'll keep it straight. Help now from Whitley. You ride on board with the 53 of Stempian. And just like that, Trevor, again, nowhere to go on the bottom. It's so hard to make those passes complete. Stempian, though, has been one of the better ones in making those passes happen down there, and he's not going to give up at all.
No, he's not going to give up at all. He's going to keep fighting, but now has to tuck back in line, get a little bit of a draft assistance to close back in as Whitley goes to the outside of the 5. Zach Duscher now Stimpy closing in on the 5 machine, going to give him a little bit of a bump. Down into turn number 1, here comes the 1 of Sutherland. The 78 is Lipinski. He's going to be aggressive down to the inside, almost 3 wide in turn number 2. Lipinski going to get a little loose there on the corner exit, not able to clear Sutherland, and that's going to allow the 54 now of Kyle Heath to get around him and clear him down the back straightaway.
Oh, and caution is out again. A bigger stack up entrance of the back straightaway. That's the inside wall. It's Brad Dell from the 14. It looks to be the 99 of Eric Jensen. I think the first time we see you say Jensen's name all day tonight, rather. And just contact as they were roughly 3 wide. We'll take a look at the replay, see exactly how it all started. But Robert, it's kind of a little bit of a clutter fest here. A bunch of drivers getting loose first off. The exit of turn 2, 14 of Delp, the 44 of Darnell. So they spread amongst each other on the racetrack. And then as Hartwell makes it 3 wide, 14 makes contact, and then the 99 of Jensen, there's nowhere to go for him.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said there, Kenneth, as Robert's getting the replay pulled up for us, it looks like just a 3 wide. Delph was already loose coming out of turn number 2, and then just nowhere to go once everybody starts breaking loose here. And Robert, give us your thoughts here on this incident.
Oh, what I see here is that it looks like he just got a little loose, a little, driving it deeper into the car. But you can see he straightened everything out right here and thought he had it under control. But unfortunately, you can see the car drifting up here, and you're going to have the 25 there. And he's just going to clip that 25. And unfortunately, that's going to send him around into another car, and they both go heading to the inside wall. So I don't know how to take that, how to take it, you guys. Hard racing, but these cars are, can be a handful to race on. Cold tires, could have been slick, it could have been slippy. We don't know, because that's another factor that we have not talked on or touched on here tonight, is the weather.
That's true. You look at the track temperature, it is at a crisp 112 degrees. So it is slick out on the racetrack here in Michigan. And you're right, Robert. I mean, that is partially what was going on there on that sequence to bring out our yellow. Drivers getting loose. They're obviously trying to have as much throttle as they can on the exit of the corner. That car's not going to cooperate that well. The rear tires start lighting up. You have a car that gets sideways, and you have yourself a handful trying to save it. But it just looks like a tough scenario altogether there. The 25, as everybody was checking up, saw the space and said, hey, I'm going to go for it. It's wide open. And the 14, at that moment, when the 25 is getting there at such a high rate of speed, it's so hard to see him coming that quickly. So by the time you're moving up the track to merge with traffic, you make that contact, and unfortunately, it gets the 14 and the 99 around in the inside wall. So caution is out again, lap 83 of 153. But what I'm seeing, guys, and Trevor, what I'm noticing is that we're getting to the final half of this race. 83 laps complete. We're already more than halfway. And you've got 70 laps to make something happen in this next stretch. So if you've been hanging around the mid-pack or the back all day long, now is your chance to shoot up to the field, make a name for yourself in this race.
I forgot Trevor there muted for a minute. But, yeah, to go back on to what you're saying there, Ken, with Brad Delp there getting loose, that's another thing with these cars, too, here. And it's been a while in iRacing as physic-wise. But once these cars get, just a little bit sideways, they don't like it. And once they go. There is no holding on to it. And sometimes it happens so fast that it catches their driver off guard. And all of a sudden, they're snapping the wheel to the left, trying to correct the car going to the right. And it just makes it more worse. So I do believe that also happened with Brad Delp and some of these incidents that we're having here tonight, Ken.
Yeah, that is true. And to touch on that, Trevor, to expand on that point of this next-gen car and how different it is to drive. I mean, although we've had it for more than a year and more than 2 years, almost 3 years on the iRacing service, and they first put it on the sim like May 2021, right after they had unveiled the manufacturers for the next-gen car in Generation 7. But this car is very different from any other car you race on the sim, and even for these drivers, as long as they've been racing it, it can still surprise you at some points and can unravel right in front of your face.
Oh yeah, the steering box in this thing so much quicker than what we had in the Gen 6 cars. And still to this day, something that it catches you by surprise, and the lack of side force as well, that these cars don't have. Once you get sliding sideways, sometimes you'll catch it. Other times you'll see it where it'll just dart right back into the right back up the racetrack on you as you try to correct it. So these drivers always have their hands full with these cars as we're getting ready to go back racing. It's going to be Brian Johnson with a great restart in that 28 machine over the 8 of Tom Sinchek, heading down into turn number 1.
A great restart for Brian Johnson. Gets him a couple of car lengths above Senchak and Crawford. They go side by side for a moment entering turn 1. Senchak will have the advantage. First time we see him inside the top 2 since he started this race inside second. Crawford going to have to fight against Whitley on the exit of turn 2. They're roughly 3 wide near the very back of the field, side by side inside your top 6. But for the moment, Robert, everybody single file back to turn 3 for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, yep, single file going into turn 3. Exiting turn number 4 here, they're going to have side by side as we're going to have that 78 push up into the 1 there, Sutherland, and he's going to try to duck in the line. Wow, what a harsh move that was there, trying to get back in line. You can see how aggressive he was there, Ken.
Yeah, he was very aggressive at that point. Stempien now falling back as Shlapinski finds a way to the bottom. Sutherland looking to join this fight. Can't quite do it. They remain side by side at the exit of the corner. Shlapinski looking to side draft. And Trevor, we haven't really talked about that all too much here this evening, but when you're at a track like Michigan with the physics of this next-gen car, side drafting is viable. It is very possible, but the risk is you can end up making contact with the driver, and that's been the result of some of the cautions we've seen this evening. So with the aggression comes possible contact from side drafting. You saw a bit of that with Shlapinski on Stempien there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a give and take. How aggressive do you want to be on that side draft? You can really use it to your advantage to slow down the car to the inside of you, the outside of you, depending on who's doing the side drafting. And these two right here is Lipinski, the 53 of Stempien. I mean, they've been so close to one another, and then Sutherland trying to give help to the 78, but you can just see the 53 come down ever so slightly to take a little bit of air off the 78, kill its momentum, and they're still going to be side by side in turn number 3.
And watches their side-by-side for second and a change for second. Bring in Mark Whitley in the 77. He'll send a block, an attempted one at Tom Senchak in front. They make contact once and twice on the front straightaway, Robert, for turn 1.
As they make contact, they're going to go down side-by-side into turn 1 and 2 here. And we're going to have Mark Whitley on the outside getting a little sniff of the draft of Brian Johnson, who has pulled out to about a 10th lead there, and now he's going to go down and try to grab never mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have a caution.
Cliff Ashley in trouble. The 10 on the back straightaway parks it in his Kubota machine, the scheme that Ross Chastain runs in the real-life NASCAR Cup Series. The field will come to a rest, and iRacing official pace car will catch him. And I think, guys, whatever we were talking about, getting loose with the next-gen cars and the problem of driving this car and the challenges, it just showed up on that caution, Trevor. We saw the 10 all by himself, no help, no contact, just simple as it can be. Gets loose and loses the car.
Yeah, and this is going to be a perfect example of what we were just talking about with how when the car starts sliding, it feels like you're going to catch it, and all of a sudden it just snaps back around on you to the outside. And once we get that replay pulled up, Cliff Ashley with the perfect example of it, as we'll see right here, just gets loose on exit of turn number 2. See it start to slide on him, puts a little bit of right input in it to keep it straight, and then it settles a little bit, and then just instantly snaps back around on him and goes for a nice lazily spin up to the outside wall. Not sure if anybody else hit him, Kenneth, but just, again, perfect example of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I don't think anyone got into the 10. You see him do a great job of locking up the brakes so avoids hitting the outside wall. You'll see all the drivers coming by to get around. That is contact, but that is close. And that puts the 10 into the wall for good, but not enough damage to officially take out the toe link or anything. The 10 is okay. That was super close there. We're going to try to identify who that driver was. Don't exactly know, but the 10 of Ashley in trouble there. And we saw him get loose in the very middle of the corner. It started all the way back to the entrance of turn 1, where he was chasing that car. And as he was merging through the seams, that car just got sideways. Nothing he could do.
Yeah, just nothing you could do there. Just was, trying to get as much as he could, got loose there on corner exit. It was really easy to do when you're pushing these things as hard as they're trying to push them, and just couldn't quite get it to settle back down on him. Snaps back to the outside wall, and I believe that was the 7 of Keith hurl butt that got slightly into the back of the 10 machine that put him up into the wall. But I think both those drivers are going to be relatively okay after that incident.
So Brian Johnson in the race lead. We saw the caution there with the number 10 of Cliff Ashley. Everything is okay. We'll bring in another driver in tonight's field, and we'll bring in the 44 of Robbie Darnell, who is currently in 19th. And Robbie, I know you've been experiencing a lot throughout this race after starting 7th. What has this race been like from your perspective, and how has it been to drive this car on track?
It's been a hornet's nest, but it's fun. Having a great time. Doing this for Dave, it's been an awesome time, man.
I mean, Robbie, just again, we're out here all tonight. It's all about Dave Bush. I mean, what does that mean to you? What was it like? What are your experiences with Dave, and what does this mean for you?
It means everything. This is pure fun. You're gonna make me cry on this stream, but it's all right. I love Dave, man. We've gotten pretty close before I moved up to being the ad man for Cup and SRU, and he's been there for me and helped me, and I'm trying to do the same for him as best I can. If I could fly all the way to Oregon, I'd just go see him if I could.
And of course, a lot of things with Dave and all of our support for Dave. And I know that you're racing this race with everybody else, and you've put on a fantastic show. We do have to say, part of the broadcast team here, and you've done a great job in this number 44. So, Robbie, we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully things go your way into the final 62 laps of tonight's race.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So that is Robbie Darnell in the number 44. He restarts tonight's event in 19th as we will grab lap number 92 of this race. And I think, Robert, you can touch on this dearly just with every single driver. There's always a story on how they met Dave and their interactions with him, whether it be through league racing or through any other means. They all have a story with him, and that makes this race all the more special in this context.
Oh, most definitely can. Yeah, it's a heavy heart, as you can hear, from Robbie and Mark and everybody that raced at Sim Racing Unleashed. This means more than what we can say on a broadcast, on a stream. But we do thank you to everybody out there, the whole 48 to 50 people watching the event here tonight. Supporting Dave means a lot to him, and I'm sure he's watching it, smiling, laying in his bed, and having a great old time as we're going to get ready to go back green here, Ken.
Ready for the green flag. There's a look at the 44 as he gets ready for the restart. Now back at Brian Johnson, who gets substantial help from Tom Senchak as they take the green for lap number 92. Lane switch by Mark Whitley. He's going to go to the bottom. Looks like Duscher might make an attempted pass for P4 on Nick Crawford at the entrance of turn 1. But for right now, the field in the hands of Johnson at the exit of turn 2.
That first side-by-side battle is actually going to be for the second position, with that of the 77 of Whitley to the inside of that of Tom Sinchek. Then it's going to be side-by-side behind them with Crawford and Duscher in the 5 and the 74, but it's going to be Whitley diving it to the inside of the 8 of Tom Sinchek, trying to close in on the rear bumper of Brian Johnson. They're still going to be side-by-side on the exit of turn number 4, but it's going to be the 8 of Sinchek with a little bit of the draft help from the 28 of Brian Johnson that's going to allow him to clear the 77 of Mark Whitley.
Yeah, Whitley falls back into third, and it looks like a 3-car breakaway, but then you see this pack of 4 or 5 cars, a quintuplet equal to Steven Stempian in the 7. On the outside, they're going to break through the middle. The 5 of Zach Duscher gets put through the middle. We're 3 wide. Sutherland on the bottom helping Schlapinski. Stempian with the 1 to clear every single one of them as he ends up in P5. Schlapinski going to look to strike back on the bottom. Stempian shuts the door, looks to the inside of Crawford.
Looks to the inside of Crawford, but just didn't get a good run. Here comes the 5 of Duscher with a run to the outside of the 78 of Lipinski. Here comes the 1 of Sutherland. Again, the one car that hasn't really moved off the bottom. Sutherland's been on the bottom the whole race long, trying to get to the inside of the 78. The 13 of Cedric Hunter is going to make it 3 wide down into turn number 1 with the 54 of Kyle Heath looking to poke his nose in. But now it's going to be 2 by 2 with Lipinski, the 1 of Sutherland, as they go battling out of turn number 2.
I was about to mention, look at Cedric Hunter in the 13. He started 26 in this race, now to P8 on the racetrack. Robert, it just shows you that with a long race like this, anything can happen. And regardless of how that first half of the race goes, if you find yourself in this top 10 or top 5 in the last half, then you're going to have a good setup for the very end of this race. We saw Hunter as a sitting duck on old tires, let the entire field by. Now he's on an even playing field with everybody, and he's got a chance to strike.
He most definitely's got a chance of striking. Another quote about Hunter is that he is a long run guy there, Ken. You know, we can get a long stretch without a yellow here. Hunter knows how to save them tires at a lot of tracks. Now, I'm not sure about at Michigan, though, but you're right. Right now, he's up in the front. He fell back a little bit. Now he's working his way back up through the field here, running in 8th position, looking good, probably saving some tires, but I'm telling you, like you said earlier, Ken, the draft here at Michigan is OP. It is just overpowering, and you really got to stay with somebody. And you can make these moves, as you can see the 5 up there just bumping and bumping, but then eventually getting into the turn where he can do nothing as he gets ready to head down that backstretch here, trying to battle again here and pick up his next position.
You need to work with both sides, and I think that's the toughest thing about racing a track like Michigan. You need to be good in the draft, you need to be cooperative with the drivers in front and behind you, but you also need to be good at keeping that car planted in the middle of the corner. On board with the 13 of Hunter, he's got a nice view of everybody right in front of him, and the battle for second. Mark Whitley looking again to the inside of Tom Senchak. This time they'll bring a third car in, tertiary machine, the 53 of Steven Stepien makes it almost 3 wide, Trevor into turn 1.
Almost made a little bit of contact there with the 77 of Whitley as he had a huge run on those two. Was trying to figure out if he was going to give a shot to the 8 of Senchek or try to make it 3 wide, but they almost touched, and now it's going to be the 77 of Whitley giving a little bit of a side draft, a little bit of a bump to Stepien down the backstretch, but Stepien moves up 1 spot. Drop Whitley back 1 spot as they get now settled out single file, and it's going to be Senchek still trying to chase down the 28 of Brian Johnson. Stepien up to 3rd, Whitley back to 4th. Crawford our top 5 as they head down the front straightaway.
How good has Steven Stepien been all race long? There's a look on board with your P3 driver in Steven Stepien looking on the rear end. That is Mark Whitley behind him. A nice view out of this 4-inch spoiler on this next-gen Camaro. They'll be single file, but Robert, I'm sure if you're a guy like Stepien, you're definitely looking at the top 2 like dinner time. You know you can get by these 2. You know how quick you've been all race in this 53 car, so why not strike as we enter the final 54 laps of the race?
Oh, yeah, 54 laps to go. I would say maybe it is strike time. But the thing with that, Ken, is too, though, he is fast, but we have Mark Whitley, Simchek, we got Johnson, we got Nick Crawford. We got a lot of these guys that been just overly fast here tonight. So it's up for grabbing for at least these top 10 here. We have Brandon Colley back here running in 10th position. He was on old tires. He got freight trained on one of them going back green after a yellow. And now he's working his way back up through the field.
That is true. Him and Tedrick Hunter kind of have that bonding sort of similarity between the two. They were both on old tires in the race lead at one point, let the whole field by, and now look at them. On even playing field, like I mentioned earlier, and now with a chance to get into the top 10, break their way through, as they'll work on the high side. They'll help Zach Dushner on the top. They're going to get around Schlapinski, but they are weaving all over throughout your top 5. Mark Whitley, Trevor now under fire from Kyle Heath, possibly a 2-for-1. That 54 looking to the bottom out of turn 2.
Yeah, it all started for Whitley as he almost got to the outside wall out of the exit of turn number 4, got in behind the 8 of Senchek, got a little bit arrow tight, almost got to the wall, killed all his momentum down the front straightaway, allowed the 54 of Kyle Heath to get to his inside. However, he did a really good job defending that down the back straightaway, almost made it 3 wide with the 53 of Stepien, but now still under pressure from the 54, but might have that spot cleared. A little bit of contact behind them between Slapinski and the 74 of Crawford as they still battle it out side by side. That allows the 5 now of Duscher to get by the 78 machine as that battle still continues down into turn number 1.
They'll remain door to door, and we almost saw 3 wide. Indeed, we did for a slight moment behind them. Sutherland in the middle in the 1 car. It was Brandon Colley on the top side, and I believe it was Brandon Sheets in the number 2 on the bottom. They have since single filed out, but that could have been a huge scare and might have brought us another caution in this race. More drivers side by side. Heath again trying to pressure the 77 as you watch this move. Hunter goes sideways. He gets into Sutherland, and they save it.
Wow. What a save by the 13 and Sutherland, man. They tapped and went sideways, broadways, and whatever else you want to call it. Saved it and regathered themselves here, and now they're going to go down into turn 1 and 2 with hopefully their tires didn't take too much of a damage there. That's going to be the question is sliding your car like that can really hurt the tires, heat the tires up, and now you got to try to get them to cool back down. And that's hard when you're trying to keep up with the field because this track here tonight is all about momentum based. You can just see it from the drivers. You got to keep the momentum up. You got to keep the RPMs up. You got to stay with the guy that you want to draft with and try to make the move down into turn 1 or turn 3 and 4.
That's true, and Trevor, I'll toss that over to you. Track like Michigan, you get sideways like Hunter did right there, I think off of contact. He got hit in the rear end, got sent him sideways. You lose that momentum, and losing one spot at another track, at this track becomes 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. For Hunter, he drops to 15.
Yeah, I mean, just like that, went from inside our top 10 almost up, was battling up there for 6th or 7th position when he and Sutherland made contact. Now all the way back here to that 15th position just goes to show how much that little bit of momentum loss can really hurt both those drivers. The Sutherland's now back there as well to 12th position, and now they've got a lot of work ahead of them, and we've seen how difficult it is to complete passes and work your way forward unless you're willing to be overly aggressive. But if you're that aggressive, Kenneth, on these tires, chance that you wear them out in this race kind of has that feel like it might get a long green flag run in it.
We'll just have to see their side-by-side for around 13th on the track. Remember, Brandon Hartwell, who's involved in a caution in turn 1 earlier in this race, now has got a clean Chevy Camaro inside of the top 15 in that door-to-door battle with the 13 of Hunter. Right on board with his Camaro, his Monster Energy sponsored car. Brandon Sheets right in front of him as they're side-by-side a couple of rows ahead. Brandon Colley looking to move on the inside of Zach Duscher and Isaac Mock, the third car in this group. I also do want to note, Robert, that we did not really see it on the broadcast, but it did happen. The 54 of Kyle Heath got into Mark Whitley as they were going side-by-side, and then Schlapinski said over the radio, great save in response to Heath. Heath and Whitley keep the car straight, although Heath drops back to 7th.
As he drops back to 7th. Yeah, that's good that they said nice save there, but I want to throw this off just a little bit here, ladies and gentlemen, and change subjects just for a second. I want to give a big shout out to Harpoon Designs. He's been a primary sponsor over at Sim Racing Unleashed. He is a sponsor of Mark Whitley, Gary, and a couple other cars out here in the track. So I just want to make sure everybody knows, give him a big shout out for coming over here, getting these cars painted, doing this for Dave Bush, and help sponsor this. So thank you again to Harpoons Designs. Make sure you check them out on over at Trading Paints, as he has a lot of paints that you can download or use on your sim racing rig and car, trucks, or any vehicle that you race. So thank you very much to them and everybody else out there that has donated and went to the charity GoFundMe to help Dave Bush and his family for this time of need. As hopefully, every little bit that he gives there anybody goes a long way.
It definitely does go a long way. And again, if you're watching the broadcast here tonight on Freaky Fast Broadcasting and you have not donated but want to find a way to do so, we'll send the link back in the YouTube chat. You can go to that GoFundMe page to support Dave and his family through this time. So anytime you have that link that's open and you can send in your donation, we are up to $2,735 raised for them as of the moment. Here's a nice three-way fight for what's going to be P4 on the track. All of them looking to chase down on Mark Whitley. This is Gary Schlapinski in the 78, and now Trevor, Kyle Heath in the 54. We mentioned that previous contact between Heath and Whitley. That 54 has been bad fast ever since starting just inside the top 10, and he's looking to gain a little bit of redemption this time by.
Yeah, he's just been quietly working his way forward. I mean, we've seen him battling up there with these guys. Had that little bit of contact, fell back a little bit, but now caught right back up to Whitley, Schlapinski, and then Heath all side by side, nose to tail, and make that side by side now as he goes to dive for the inside of the 78 machine, trying to get this pass done, trying to get that draft help from the 77 to Whitley and clear Schlapinski off the corner.
Leader way high. I apologize. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but Tom Senchak, I was about to mention after we were finished that he took the race lead, but he went way high at the exit of 4, and look at him drop kicking through the field as Johnson takes the lead back.
Yeah, it looks like he just got tied out of turn number 4, had to get out of the throttle, and you see how much he lost there. I'll tell you what, who took real advantage of that? Schlapinski sent it 3 wide, but he gets to the outside wall. Senchek into the outside wall. They're banging off the wall. Almost contact made with Heath. He's now going to be a big loser in all this, as he's going to lose his spot to the 74 of Crawford, and it's all kicking off now.
Those were like 3 or 4 cars simultaneously hitting the outside wall. Senchek one of them, and you can imagine, Robert, that could affect the right side of their race cars a little bit more. That understeer effect could get worse off of the contact. There's a look at the 8 who's fallen back to P6. And yes, while he's able to get away from the 74 of Crawford, that's a lot of track position lost. He was at one point in control of the race.
Yeah, at one point in control of the race, but not only that, like you said, you keep banging on that right side of that car. The car can only take so much hitting the wall. As you see, who was that? Oh, Brandon Cawley got loose way back there. But yeah, the car can only take so much beating here until finally that something breaks. As you can see, Tom getting a big push by the 74 there, Nick Crawford, for 6th and 7th position. But you're right there, Ken. The last thing you want to do is just keep beating that car up, on that side. But what's good about these Gen 7 cars in real life and on the sim racing, not ride racing, and Trevor calls it all the time, they're built like tanks. And you can beat them up, and they just keep on running.
That's true. That composite body does wonders when you strike the outside wall once or even a couple of times, as they're side by side for second. And now look who enters the top 2 once more. Steven Stempien, but he almost gets a piece of contact. Kyle Heath almost got into him entering turn 3. That'll give Schlapinski a chance to fight back on the bottom. But that could have been a huge scare and almost made contact, almost got into a crash. Fortunately, they keep it all straight. Stempien gets the push from the 54, and they have 0.4 of a second, Trevor, to gain on your race leader, who has been cruising at the front.
Yeah, Johnson, once he get around the 8 of Sinchek after Sinchek's tightness out of turn number 4, kind of setting sail now. It's been this battle for second that's been ongoing with Stempien, Heath, Whitley, Slapinski, and now here comes Sinchek again back to the outside of the 78 as Slapinski was kind of stuck on the bottom. Heath is going to go now to the inside of the Stempien for second, so move Heath up to second position. That 54 machine really flying as this run continues. Whitley with a little bit of a bump to the back of the 53 as Stempien looks like he's starting to struggle on this long run.
And just like Dave said, you want to be in a position as a driver in this race where you want to look back and you don't want to go back and change anything, much like Dave thinks about in terms of his life. The 77 of Whitley to the bottom of Stempien. This is for third. And they'll bring in Shapinski once more again. You watch the 8 of Sanchak and the 1 of Sutherland also behind them. They almost get into the outside wall. Slapinski has to chase it down, but they're all single file, top 5 or so back straight away.
Yeah, this is what's getting interesting here as the car gets tight, having to put more wheel into it, but it's on corner exit where it unloads, where it'll get snappy loose, and we're starting to see that, especially out of the corner of turn number 2. These guys getting loose on corner exit, so something they're going to have to worry about, especially when you're side by side with somebody. Potentially 3 wide is a little bit of weaving going on up front. Whitley trying to take the 53 to make a move to his inside, but those 4 now from third on back to 5th, make it 6th, all nose to tail, but it's going to be now the 53. Stempien looking to the inside of Whitley, just doesn't have the run, the momentum that he needs. As I say that, Whitley gets tight. Stempien gets tight. Whitley into the wall. They're sliding all over the place down the back straightaway.
They're throwing wide contact into Stempien and Sutherland. Around goes Schlapinski. Will that bring out the caution? Yes, it will. At lap 114, Schlapinski in trouble. And Robert, it looked like at that point it was going to come to a close. And this battle, as the 77 got into the outside wall, and they checked everybody up as they were slowing down. Slapinski came up, and then came back up the track, and caught up the 53 in the 1, and also gets Brandon Colley in it as well.
Well, that's what I was saying there, Ken. Momentum-based track. This is, and you can see it right there. A car gets into the wall, checks up everybody else in the back of them, and then everybody's weaving and wobbling and dancing and singing and trying to figure out where they want to go. And unfortunately, we had a yellow come out with cars involved into some wreck in the back here. So it's our 11th yellow here tonight at Michigan International Speedway. Celebrating the life of Dave Bush here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. I'd like to give a big shout out to Ken and Trevor for hopping up here and doing this here tonight. I know Dave and Stempien, everybody that put this on, we do much appreciate it here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. And hopefully everybody out there is enjoying the stream. And don't forget, if you want to help us out, hit that like button. But the most important thing you can do tonight to help Dave is hit that share button. Share this stream to your favorite social media platform of your choosing, and it can go a long way. But as it looks like here, Ken, everybody's going to come down and make a pit stop.
Gonna echo your thoughts about sharing and, of course, going to that GoFundMe page if you want to support Dave and his family. And leaders are on pit road. So Trevor, it's been a while since we've seen them come in, but obviously with the yellow we just had, it's a nice point for these guys to come in without any pressure. We really haven't seen that all night long. Green flag pit stops has basically been non-existent. Every time we have a semi-long green flag run, we get a caution to break things up, and it's the perfect time for everyone to come in. Brian Johnson lifts up the jacks on the left side of the Camry, gets him off, and it looks like he's up and away. He'll take the race lead without any problems. Kyle Heath, though, fantastic stop, Trevor, 14.8. He gets out in front of Whitley for second.
Yeah, great stop from the 54 machine. He's going to be in second position, but we were getting to that point there, Kenneth, where I was thinking about green flag pit stops coming in until everything kicked off down the back straightaway. You could really tell everybody's starting to struggle, but from this point on, might be good on fuel for these drivers to make it to the end. Could see a little bit of strategy call if there's a late race yellow. Don't know how that's going to go yet. We'll have to wait and see when we get there, but a chance for all these drivers, especially up front with how that battling was going, to catch your breath, lower your heart rate, but get settled in because it's about to skyrocket back again because we're closing in to the end of this race, and it's only going to get more and more intense as those laps wind down.
That is true. It's only going to get more aggressive, and if we thought we've seen aggressive racing all night long, well, we're probably going to see a next level of it when we get this green flag inside the final 40 laps of this race. Just an update on the 78 of Gary Shlapinski. He is back in 14th after that crash at the exit of turn 2. And just of note, in terms of our heavy hitters at the front of the field, Shlapinski has used his second and last available fast repair. So now he's got to have a car that needs to be clean for the end of this race. He's got to walk on eggshells. And Robert, I know we really haven't pointed that out all too much in this race just because we've had two, and fortunately many of the drivers have not even had to use one in terms of this race. But when you're down to your second and last fast repair, it's a different method of approach behind the wheel. You have to be as careful as you can be because the last thing you want to do is get some damage on it.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you use the last repair, after having two, and now you're down to your, zero goose egg. No more in pit road. You really got to change your strategy on how you want to race this car and race around people. So you just got to be more aware your surrounding area is around, the car, so you don't bump into nobody or even just bump into the wall. So I'm sure that he's going to take it easy, I would imagine. Or maybe he's the type of driver, because this is the first time I ever seen him out on track. He might be aggressive. He might say, it might be my last one, but I'm not going to change my driving style.
So we'll have a restart, lap number 118 of 153 into the final home stretch of this race. Brian Johnson, still your leader. We've seen nobody really get ahead of him in terms of the race lead other than maybe Tom Senchak, but that didn't last all too long. We'll see if Kyle Heath can dethrone that number 28 when we get the green flag. Steven Stepien and Mark Whitley, third and fourth at the green. Pace car's down. We'll see what Johnson does. Does he go early? Yes, he does. Green flag back in the air from Michigan.
And here comes Stimpy with a big push to the back bumper of the 28 of Brian Johnson. Will he decide to dive it down here into turn number 1, try to get that lead away? No, he's going to think better of it. Fall back in line behind the 28. Follow him down into turn number 2. Heath is going to follow as well, and it's going to be Crawford now looking to the inside. He's battling away with Mark Whitley, trying to get a run on the 54 machine, but has no help. He's going to lose that position to Whitley, lose one to Sutherland, and here comes the 13 to Cedric Hunter. The 74 struggling down the back straightaway with no help.
Yeah, the 74 has absolutely no drafting assistance, although in the corner he'll gain it back. He'll slide in front of the 13. Loose goes Kyle Heath at the exit of 4, and he saves it.
Saves it, but look at all this position he's about to lose as everybody's lined up on the outside. The first opening is going to be behind the 2 machine of Brandon Sheets. That's going to send Heath from 3rd all the way back to 10th, but we got a caution.
Caution is out. It's Zach Duscher, sideways, entrance turn 1. And nobody gets in, unfortunately. The 5 escapes any significant contact, but it was a hit with the 47 of Isaac Mock that gets him sideways, and Duscher, who had been one of the contenders, Trevor, throughout most of this race, is now going to be behind the 8 ball. We'll take a look at the replay.
Yeah, just going to lose all this track position with how hard it's been to get back up to the front. And if you're not aggressive, he's going to have a lot of work to do for himself and not a lot of time to do it. And just looking back from what I saw, maybe a little bit of a misjudgment from the car to his inside from the 47 as we had a look here at the replay.
Indeed, you're right. Going to have to agree with you there. Just some slight miscommunication, and we talked about it already. The miscommunication that can happen on a side draft attempt. You get a little too close, you don't recognize you're making contact with them, but by the time you do, it's already too late. So the 47 just tried to reel back in the 5 with the aerodynamics, and unfortunately got into the left quarter panel of the 5, sends him around, and Duscher goes around, locks up the brakes, so does a great job of not rolling anywhere else, and the field also does a great job. Have to give them credit, Robert, for not getting into him, and so a contactless, pretty much caution inside 33 laps to go.
Yeah, just a self spin going around the corner there, and just bumped into side drafting like you said, but didn't get involved into any other cars there in that number 5 machine. So we'll see here how that goes. But look who is back out in the track there, Trevor. We got Zach Hall in the Freaky Fast Racing Team car. Back out with Dave Bush's logo on top. He actually is out back racing, gotten his technical stuff fixed.
Yeah, it looks like Zach out there trying to work out his technical issue that he had from earlier that saw him go behind the wall for many of laps. But it looks like that team has got that figured out. And going to bring that 42 Freaky Fast Broadcasting car down pit road, go to the tail end of the field. That way he's not in anybody's way. But good to see Zach out there. Good to see, I think we've got everybody still out on track for the most part. I think Ryan Bird, the only driver actually out of this race of our 31 drivers that started here tonight. So good to see everybody still out there on track for the most part, celebrating the life of Dave Bush.
It's been amazing to see the turnout. I think the only driver that's not in this race right now is Ryan Bird in the 49. And Zach Hall, you guys mentioned it, resilience. Despite the problems he had earlier in this race, he's not giving up, and he's still going to put in these laps. And again, just shows you how much Dave means to every single one of these drivers. And this race in particular, they're going to run every single lap, regardless of what they have to do it. And so amazing for Zach Hall to be in this race, and we'll see if we can get to the checkered flag in that number 42. We'll look back at the front of the field, ready for the restart on lap 122. Brian Johnson and Steven Stempian at the front. Keep an eye on that 53. He was the leader at the time of our break at lap number 50. He has been so fast all night long, and while yes, he's been able to hold on to the lead, Brian Johnson has been undefeated since taking P1 back, and we have a bunch of great drivers behind them still have that chance to get to the front. Green flag in the air, lap 122 underway, side by side between first and second, back to turn 1.
And it's an equal start between both of them. What's going to happen down here to turn 1? Johnson's going to go low. Stempian's going to go high, see if he can get the run, maybe go for a crossover move. He's going to duck in behind the 28. A little bit of a wiggle. That's going to invite the 77 of Whitley to his outside, but Whitley gets tight. That's going to stack up the outside further on back behind them, and the caution's back out on the racetrack.
Caution's out, and I think it is for the 74 of Nick Crawford. Got sideways, and he lost the race car by his lonesome on the back straightaway and chased it for the apron, kept it out of the inside wall, but that is enough to slow the field down again with 31 laps remaining. There's a look at Johnson crossing the line. No changes inside your top 3, but for Crawford, trouble already at this stage of the race. We'll try and take a replay here. The 74 gets sideways and just touches Trevor on the point that we've already made, all 3 of us in the broadcast booth. When you get this car sideways, virtually impossible to save it, but the 74 had to check up for Whitley, and then around he went.
Yeah, around he went, but did a good job deciding to spin that to the inside wall instead of back up into the field. So good call on Crawford's part there to go to the inside of the racetrack. Going to lose a lot of track position for a driver that's been inside our top 5 pretty much all night long, but you can see it right here to the inside of Sutherland in the 1 machine, and it just steps out on him out of turn number 2. And here he goes over, gets it corrected, but then it starts to snap back to the right and then just spins it back to the left, cranks the wheel to the inside wall to keep it from going up into the 13 of Cedric Hunter back into the field. A nice lazy spin down the back straightaway. Thankfully, a lot of runoff room there for the 74 of Crawford to get that car collected and not make any contact with the inside wall.
Look at the in-car cam off of Crawford and the 74. Gets that car back straight. And the 74 of Crawford now going to have to really pick up a lot of track position if he wants to get back in this race, because with the amount of drivers that we still have in this event, he is back to 28. He's now coming down for pit road. Those tires have to be shot, and you know he's probably going to get some 4 fresh tires on pit road. And we do also have guys, and Robert, you can explain on this a little more as well. The tire sets that we have in this race, we really haven't talked about that at all throughout this event. It's 153 laps. We're going over 300 miles. It's a long race here from Michigan. You have 5 extra sets on pit road added to the one that you start the race with, and most of these drivers are on their 4th or 5th pit stop, so you're getting to that last stretch where you're running out of tires, and that's not going to be an advantage point anymore if we keep getting yellows.
Well, that's it. You know, if you keep getting yellows, you can't take advantage of the tire completely, and the last thing you want to do is waste a set of tires just to put fresh tires on to get a yellow, you know, within 10 laps. So you're going to play that do and don't game here as we get down closer to the end of the race here. But if you have like a set or two, and me personally, if you had 2 sets left in the pit road, guys, I would go in and take it with about 25 laps to go. You should be able to make up ground. Now, that's all going to go off if we can stay, you know, green flag racing, and you'll be able to, you know, take advantage of those tires and work your way through the field, hopefully to get to the front. So we'll have to see what these guys do. If we do get a yellow within the next 5 to 7 laps, we'll see what they decide to do.
It's going to be an interesting decision, no doubt about it. Brian Johnson, Steven Stepien, row number 1 as the pace car comes down, and we'll see if we can end this race under green. It'll be the final 29 laps left in this race. Johnson with a head of steam. Look at Hunter sending it 3 wide, and a big block by Whitley for turn 1.
Yeah, Whitley throwing the block, but Hunter's still going to look to make it 3 wide down into turn number 1, but not going to have enough of a run there. Sutherland's going to get by on the outside, attack Mark Whitley as everybody's a little bit loose on corner exit, but it's going to be Hunter losing now out on to the 54 of that of Heath as he goes down now trying to attack Sutherland up front. Stippian tried to look to the inside of Brian Johnson, but he's not going to get there. Whitley's now going to attack to the inside of the 53 of Stimpy, and this is going to be the battle for second off of turn number 4.
And Robert, if there's one thing I'm noticing now, fresh off of this restart, there's a lot more desperation. Drivers are being more aggressive for these moves, even if they haven't been all race long. This is the moment where you have to go for them, or else those opportunities are going to wash away, and you're not going to have a chance to win this event. Whitley to the inside of Stepien for second.
Yeah, he's going to look on the inside of Stepien. You're going down the backstretch all by yourself, but I don't think that's going to help him as Stepien's going to stick on with Brian Johnson, and you can see Mark Whitley fall back into line there. And you're right, if it's time to go, right now is go time, as you're going to see him look underneath Stepien again there, as Mark is trying to really work that low line. The problem is that you just get pinched off on exiting turn 2 and 4, that you can't momentum that car out of the turn and let it carry up to the wall to carry all your momentum. But you'll see Stepien again trying that low line there, Ken.
You'll see Whitley go to the bottom. He slides up in front of the 53, so it's completed for second. They're 3 wide on the back straightaway. Kyle Heath and Schlapinski working against the top. They're both going to settle in on the back straightaway entering turn 3. Now here comes Whitley. Dive deep in for the race lead on Brian Johnson.
Oh, and an aggressive slide up in front of the 28 of Johnson. Johnson's going to go with the crossover move down here out of turn number 4. See if he decides to side draft, and no, going to run it all the way down to the bottom. Whitley's going to chase him down to the apron down here on the front straightaway into turn number 1. Whitley, Johnson side by side. Stimpy now looking to the outside. Cedric Hunter side by side with that of Sutherland for 3rd position. Now make that 2nd position or 3rd position for Cedric Hunter as he closed in on the 53 of Stimpy as he gets a little bit of loose, but it's still going to be the battle side by side for the lead down the back straightaway.
This race has turned on its head. If you're that 13 of Hunter, who was at one point back in the field on the oldest set of tires, they make contact for the lead in turn 3. Johnson slides up into the 77, and this is the prime invitation, Robert, for Steven Stepien. Grabs a draft ball to 28, and now could look 3 wide, but doesn't at the stripe.
He doesn't 3 wide yet, but we're waiting for him to go down into turn number 1 here as he's pushing Brian Johnson to the lead. As Mark Whitley and Brian Johnson are going to get side by side. You're going to have Sutherland back here getting side by side. And this is starting to heat up, ladies and gentlemen. This race is now go time. And you can see the aggression level went from 150 as Brian Johnson and Mark Whitley get into each other. And Mark, what a save. Brian Johnson used his car to save Mark Whitley.
Isaiah Sutherland cannot believe it. Queued up on the radio, said, oh my God, what a save. The 77 keeps it away from absolute calamity. Sends a block, though, the 77 does, to the 1 on the front straightaway.
I'm speechless for what I just saw. Oh, and he just drives into the door of the 28 of Brian Johnson. Contact made between the leaders, and I still don't know what I've just seen, Kenneth. I mean, they beating and banging, almost wrecking 3 and 4. Walls the 28 in turn number 1. Sutherland now in the lead. Whitley in second. Sinchek going to look it to the inside for third position. And Brian Johnson, the dominant car, is going to be back here battling for fifth with Kyle Heath.
With how sideways you saw that 77, you could have imagined that had to have been a caution, and somehow it wasn't. Somehow they stayed straight. Johnson got absolutely set in the corner, and then hands the lead to Isaiah Sutherland, who has never had the lead, never had a clean air all race long. And this time it changes. Senchak slides in front of the number 77 for second, and it is becoming an absolute dogfight. Caution flag is out with 22 laps to go.
Catch your breath. I think we all just need to catch our breath, lower our heart rates. I mean, that was a wild sequence of about 2 corners that we saw. A wreck that wasn't a wreck, ascend into turn number 1, Sutherland to the lead, more beating and banging. And now we just get to restack them, get everybody grouped back up, and do it all over again.
We have to do it again. Oh my. What a race to the caution flag. And of course, we'll dial up for you who exactly was involved. It was the 5 of Zach Duscher getting clipped by the 10 of Cliff Ashley, and also involving a couple of more as well. One of them being the 74 of Nick Crawford, and also the 71 of John Peel. So unfortunate for Crawford, who we saw go for a spin solo at the back straightaway and lost all that track position, and unfortunately gets caught up in the mess, Robert. But my goodness, what a run all the way up to this point. Here's a look at the caution, but what happened up front, I don't think can be explained in words.
No, I'm lost for words, but as we're going to watch right here, exactly what happened on this replay to bring out this latest yellow, you can see he just drove right up into the 5, actually. A little too aggressive, maybe, and got the left rear of that number 5, and he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally he went around, and you can see the 25 just making it by. You're going to have Robbie looking at there, right by him. He makes it through clearly, almost, but there's other cars involved up there in the front. I'm not sure who all that is there, Ken, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 other cars hitting the wall.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest crashes all night long, no doubt about it. And big thing here, Trevor, your leaders are on pit road for what could be, for many, their last set to use for the evening. Brad Delph is going to stay out, so it looks like maybe he has no tire sets left, or he's just going to hope to stay out with 20 laps to go. But Isaiah Sutherland, Brian Johnson, Tom Senchak, everybody at the front coming in for service.
Yeah, coming in that final pit stop for our leaders. We're going to have to see here. Looks like Senchak's going to end up beating the 28 of Brian Johnson off of pit road. And this is going to be interesting because it's going to be Whitley and Johnson, I think, that are going to restart side by side with one another. And I believe there might be a little bit of animosity between those two drivers based off of what we saw that last lap and a half before that caution.
Oh, yeah. No mercy between the 28 and the 77 when we get this race back started. And there's the 25 of Brandon Hartwell and his Monster Energy Chevrolet Camaro. So we'll bring in the driver of the 25 this evening in Brandon Hartwell. We'll see what his thoughts are about tonight's race. So welcome, Brandon, to the Freaky Fast Broadcasting booth. Of course, you've been having an eventful race here from Michigan, but what has it been like for you and this celebration of Dave Bush's life?
It's been a really stressful race. A lot of hard racing, a lot of close racing, with a lot of guys that I've never even seen their names before. But looking to put on a last good 20 laps and hopefully finish this thing.
I mean, Brandon, what's it going to take here these last 20 laps or so to get up there? And just what does this event mean to you as well?
It's going to take hopefully some patience in the outside line, but I don't know, the inside line has been working pretty good. And I'm glad I can be a part of this charity race for Dave. I know he's going through a lot and means a lot to the league, everybody that runs in it.
Well, Brandon, we certainly appreciate the time. I know you, along with all of us, having Dave Bush in mind throughout this race. Wishing you the best of luck inside the final 20 laps of our event.
Thank you.
So that is Brandon Hartwell in the 25, and he said patience, the biggest thing to get back up to the front. He is P16 on the outside of what appears to be row number 8 when we get this restart. What's going to be on lap number 135. Guys, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to expect at this point. 20 laps to go. Everybody has been so aggressive. Brad Delph out on old tires. It's going to be insane.
It is. And last time we saw Delph out on old tires, I believe he got spun around or caught up in an incident. And so this can make this restart really interesting. It might help the inside row. It might stack up the inside row, give that outside line the advantage. So we're just going to have to wait and see here on this restart. Delph is going to be the control car. We'll see if he can get a good clear into turn number 1, but it's going to be what happens in out of turn number 2 and 3 and 4 that's really going to kind of decide the fate of the front half of the field.
We'll see what happens. Final 19 laps on tap from the Irish Hills of Michigan. Brad Delph in control. The restart, the aid of Tom Senchak on the outside of the first row. Pace cars down. Green flag is out. A little bit of a late jump by the 14, but it's good enough to clear him ahead of the 8 as they chase back for turn 1. They're already 3 wide through the top 10.
And it's going to be Heath taking it to the outside of the 77 of Whitley. Sutherland all the way to the bottom. It's going to be Delph, though, that's going to get swallowed up by the 8 of Senchak, the 28 of Ryan Johnson as well. Here comes Whitley with a run on the 14 machine, but he's going to have to fall right back in line as Delph gets a great run off the top on those old tires, clears the 28, and right back to the rear bumper of the 8 of Tom Senchak into turn number 3.
Just a testament to how powerful that outside lane is, regardless of whether you're on old tires or new rubber. Whitley gets sent up the racetrack. He goes for the 4th and 5th line here in Michigan. He's able to keep it off the outside wall, but not enough to prevent Johnson from looking to the bottom. They're both single file down at the inside. Johnson looking to send it to turn 1.
We're going to send it to the turn number 1. Going to dive it to the inside of Whitley. Whitley had a little bit of drafting help from that of the 54 of Heath down the front straightaway. Going to pinch the 28 down, cover him off, loses a little bit of momentum, but Johnson's going to fall in line now behind the 77 of Whitley. Heath's going to look to the inside with help from the 1 of Sutherland down here into turn number 3.
And as we come across for 17 laps to go, Robert, you're the 28 of Brian Johnson. You've been in the lead for most of the race. Now you've got it stripped away from you. What can you do to get back up to P1?
You're just going to have to be aggressive without burning up your tires. And I know that's hard to say and it's hard to do as a driver, but it is go time. And you can see the 77 and the 28 of Mark Whitley and Brian Johnson. They had a little scuffle a couple laps ago. We'll see if that keeps boiling or if they said their sorries. As you see Mark Whitley get loose, and that's going to give the effort to Brian Johnson to take the outside and also open up the door for Sutherland, yeah, I could never say his name and I do apologize. But anyways, to the 1.
The 1 goes for 3rd. Whitley charging back on the bottom. There was a nice push by the 13 of Cedric Hunter on the back straightaway for Johnson. This is the perfect place for him to be. He's in striking distance of the race leader inside what's going to be 15 laps to go from Michigan. Sutherland now up to 3rd. Remember, Trevor, he had at one point had a shot at the race lead, ran up front. It's going to be big for him.
Yeah, Sutherland had the lead there, Kenneth, until that round of pit stops. Then a slow pit stop from that one machine kind of sent him back into the pack, but now up to 3rd following the 28 of Brian Johnson as they try to close in on Senchak, who was enjoying a little bit of a fresh air and a breather from all the chaos as everybody was battling behind him, but now they're starting to close in ever so slowly on the 8 of Senchak. It'll add Mark Whitley now to that little group of 3, 2nd through 4th, closing in on our race leader down the front straightaway.
They took notice that probably the only chance at getting back to Senchak is by working together, as hard as that might be, and as many of the opportunities that you have to make passes on the inside or outside, they need to work coherently if they want to catch up to Senchak and make this a proper race for the lead. Heath is having none of it. He goes to the bottom. The 77 sends a block entering turn 3. And now it's just all about what the 3 can do. The 54 slides up, and how much Lipinski under Hunter.
Under Hunter, but caution. Caution out on the racetrack. Coming to 14 laps to go. We're going to get another restart here. Not quite sure who's involved, but Slipinski and the 54 of Heath trying to use that inside line to gain some track position here. And I think he might have cleared Cedric Hunter before that caution came out.
It looks like he did. We'll try and get the replay for you. It is involving Zach Duscher. So unfortunate for the 5. He's just been caught up in so many incidents late in the going, and unfortunately he has disconnected from the session, so he will officially become our 2nd DNF from Michigan International Speedway. He joins Ryan Bird in that. It looks like contact, Trevor, with the 3 of Robbie Stewart. as they got close together. The 5 got into the corner early. The 3 dove on the brakes a little too late, and then both of them just made contact.
Yeah, it looks to me like the 3 there of Stewart just didn't expect the 5 of Duscher to come down that quickly. Those 2 get together, sends the 5 up the track, contact with the 10, as well as he clips the front end of the 5, kind of finishes him off. And what an unfortunate night there for that of Zach Duscher. And the 5 machine was up front for a majority of the night, and then just once it went wrong for him, it just kind of snowballed for that 5 machine, and it finds himself out of the race here tonight with that of 13 laps to go.
So Duscher out of this race. There's a look back at the leaders on the racetrack. And it has been all in Tom Senchak's hands, but unfortunately here, this caution is going to bring everybody back together. So Senchak is going to have more pressure on his shoulders here to be able to keep the race lead. And with everybody bunched up double file, it's going to make that effort at staying up in clean air a lot harder, especially when you consider how good Brian Johnson has been on this race, how good Isaiah Sutherland has been late in this event. And when you look at Kyle Heath and Schlapinski, 2 aggressive drivers who have not been afraid to dive it deep on the inside through the corner. So for Senchak, you started second, you dropped back through the top 10, and now you've got the race weighing on you inside 12 laps to go.
Yeah, he's going to have his hands full, Senchak defending from Brian Johnson. Then you got Sutherland, who's been willing to be aggressive, use that inside line. Schlapinski, we know that 78 machine has speed. We know he's willing to be aggressive, but remember, no fast repairs for that 78 machine left in his pocket. So if he is caught up in a late wreck here, that's pretty much going to be the end of the race for him. And you got Cedric Hunter, who's kind of been the quiet man, the quiet guy up in the top 10 after his old tire strategy worked his way back up there. And then the man who was really aggressive at the start won our stage, the 53 of Steven Stympian in 7th. I mean, how aggressive is he going to be to try to get a win here tonight?
We'll find out. We'll see if we can end this race under green. Pace cars down for what could be the final time in this life celebration of Dave Bush. Tom Senchak, Brian Johnson into the restart zone. We're back under green. 12 laps left.
And Senchak with a great start over Johnson. Johnson's going to be under pressure. That's going to be a side-by-side battle for second place with him and Sutherland heading down into turn number 1 with a little bit of help from the 54 of Kyle Heath to the outside line. Sutherland going to try to hold at the bottom, but a little bit of a wiggle from that 1 machine might lose him a couple of positions here to the 54 of Heath. Maybe the 13 of Cedric Hunter, make that the 78 of Slapinski as he looks to the outside of the 1 machine down the back straightaway.
Sutherland with nowhere to go, no help. Cedric Hunter gives support to Schlapinski. Johnson inches closer to your race leader as we're still side by side for the last spot inside the top 5 or so. Schlapinski slides way up the track in 4. Hunter gets sideways. 1 car down in the grass, and he'll be able to save it, I believe. No, he can't. Chris Pfaff up into Brandon Sheets, into Brad Delph, Cliff Ashley, and a whole toll of cars. It's a parking lot on the front straightaway.
Parking lot on the front straightaway, broken toe links everywhere. There is hard contact from Pfaff as he came back up the racetrack. Looked like he just got loose on corner exit, got into the grass, and once you're into the grass, in these machines, they are very hard to control. Looks like the 12's involved, the 10 as well also involved in this, as we'll get the replay pulled up.
Started in a 3-wide sequence with Philip Bridgman getting into the 38 of Christopher Norris, who then tallied into the 22 of Pfaff. It was more like a domino effect. And you see how it all started at the exit of 4. And just a slight contact, enough to send these drivers around. And Pfaff could have probably saved that car had it not been for the grass on the inside. I think that was really the killer there for him. And just almost had it saved, and then just came back up the racetrack and got everybody in it.
Yeah, had this been on the back straightaway, we're probably having a different discussion. This race is probably still green, but once you hit that grass, you can see right there just the Norris getting loose, gets down into Pfaff in the 22, but it's right here where it hits that grass. It's like hitting ice. You have no control of the race car. Once it comes back on the racing surface, it grabs grip in whatever way you had the wheels pointing when it grabs grip, that's the way it's going, right up in front of the 2 of Sheets. They go spinning around. Tyler Dangler barely getting by in the 19. Brad Delph, you see they're piling in the 14. Can't tell who that is. I believe that's the 12 also getting involved in that. Then here comes the 10. Nowhere to go as the 22 comes back down in front of him. And just calamity on the front straightaway.
At Calamity, we can identify that 12 car as Kevin Roy and the 77 of Mark Whitley. Also, it looks like he got almost a piece of that, but slid through the grass and saved it right before he got to turn one. So Whitley keeps his race intact, and you see the drivers going for the inside wall and what's left of the cars here. Brad Delph and Chris Pfaff among those in the mayhem here, as we'll get into the final 9 laps of this race and drivers on pit road. We're gonna remind you that if you want to support Dave Bush and his family as they go through this time, you can look at the GoFundMe link that has been promoted all night long in the YouTube chat, and it'll be right there for you. Right as you look at it, the most recent chat put up by our good friend Robert Moyer, the producer, and of course the controller of the chat box on YouTube. So of course you can send your donations and give your support to Dave Bush and his family. And of course all these drivers, ourselves and the broadcast team at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, of course giving our unwavering support to Dave Bush as we put on this race for him. And it has been fantastic, Trevor. And I'm going to say, I mean, this race has not disappointed. We've had so many different drivers take the lead. We've had so many different drivers go side by side, many different front runners, strategy in the mix as well. There's been a lot to talk about, and this race has been outstanding, to be quite honest.
Oh, it's been a great race. I mean, there's been constant battling since basically the drop of the green flag. Yeah, we've had that of, I believe we're working our 15th or 16th caution tonight, but the racing has just been great. Everybody's been, for the most part, respectful. Yeah, we've had a couple of incidences where some misjudgment has been made, but we've seen beating and banging drivers getting loose off the corners, making spectacular saves, and we've still got 9 laps coming to 8 laps to go in this race, and it's just going to get more and more chaotic from this point on as these laps are really getting close to the end of this race, and everybody wants to have a shot at winning it.
And you can somewhat look past those cautions as they've come out, because a lot of them, at least in my memory, a lot of them single car, 2-car incidents, and nothing really crazy. I think that front straightaway crash and some maybe 2 or 3 others have been like the biggest crashes. But even then, you look past all the yellows, you look at the great racing we've had in between, it feels like those yellows don't really exist. And every time we get a yellow, it's just another opportunity for us to have great racing again. So it's just been an outstanding event here for Michigan International Speedway. The one thing we still don't know, Trevor, is who's going to win this race. Tom Senchak and Brian Johnson at the front when we get this restart.
Yeah, those two up front. Then you've got the Kyle Heath back there in third, lurking. The 13 of Cedric Hunter also lurking. Isaiah Sutherland in the one machine is going to restart on the outside in what is going to be 6th position. I mean, he's been quick all night. And then the guy in the 78 machine of Gary Slipinski, I mean, he dominated early on in this race until he got passed. Now he's back up front after a couple of spins that he's had. So he's got a chance to win this race again. And this restart, Kenneth, is I think, going to go a long way in showing or in determining who's going to win this race.
I think you look through 1st through 5th, and you can see a winner in every single one of them. And I don't think there is a clear-cut favorite right now, other than maybe Brian Johnson. If you look at the trends that we've seen over this race, we'll just have to find out what happens. We're going to restart with 7 laps to go. Tom Senchak, your leader. Brian Johnson on the outside of row 1. Gary Lipinski and Kyle Heath, 3rd and 4th. Isaiah Sutherland inside the top 5. Cedric Hunter, Steven Stempian, Nick Crawford, Brennan Colley, and Philip Bridgman to round out your top 10. Into the restart zone, Senchak goes, we're green.
And Senchak there with a great jump. Clears the 28 of Brian Johnson. It's going to be side by side for 3rd between Heath and Slipinski. Down into turn number 1, Brian Johnson going to have kind of a clear turn in, but it's going to be Heath that's going to now look to the inside of the 28. Cedric Hunter trying to make it almost 3 wide down there in the corner. And then the 74 of Nick Crawford going to make it 3 wide now with Sutherland, Hunter. They're 3 wide down the back straightaway. That's a battle for 6th position. Sutherland's going to clear that of Crawford, kind of gets held up in the middle line. Now Heath goes to the inside. That's going to be a battle for 2nd off at turn number 4.
Remember where Nick Crawford was earlier in this race? He was up at the front, then got caught up, put back to the field after a single car incident, then got caught up in a stack up entering turn 1, and look where he is now. Inside the top 6, 3 wide for position. They're still single file. 1st through about 4th entering turn 1, and look at Cedric Hunter with the send of his life on the inside of Slipinski.
Yeah, trying to make it 3 wide. They're going to be 3 wide off of turn number 2. It's going to be Hunter, Crawford, Sutherland, Crawford into that of the 13 of Hunter. He's going to go spinning to the inside wall. Caution's out.
Caution out for the 13 as he taps the inside safer barrier and comes to a halt perpendicular to the racetrack, and we're going to have a restart inside. 5 laps to go. Hunter tried all that he could to keep that car collected, and I think Trevor just got into the 74 going up the racetrack. or rather, I think the opposite. I think just kind of kept his line. They both just converged together, and it sent the 13 sideways. And much like many of the drivers in this field, Trevor, you have them trying to save it on the back straightaway, and for the 13, he was not so lucky.
Yeah, just wasn't able to keep that car straight and safe there. And I think it was a little bit of contact. Crawford got into the one of Sutherland and then kind of came down as the 13 was trying to come up just a tad bit. They met in the middle. A racing incident there sends the 13 spinning to the inside wall. Thankfully, not a hard hit for that of Cedric Hunter, but that's pretty much going to take him out of any chance that he has at winning this race here tonight.
Yeah, that is true. And while we've said for the other drivers that were put to the back of the field that they probably had a chance to get to the front, you're right. In that case, for the number 13, it looks like his shot at the win is going to be dashed here into this race. So we'll try and get things rolling with about 3 laps to go. I'm not sure whether this is going to be an organic green-white checkered finish or not, but still, Trevor, I think for every one of these guys, the anxiety has to be through the roof.
Oh, if you had a heart rate monitor on these drivers, I'm sure it would be soaring right now as this restart's going to come up. And I think it's going to be a natural green-white checkered. Currently 4 to go. Looks like they've shortened it, so we're going to get the green flag this time by, so it's going to restart 3 to go. And this is going to get interesting. Everybody's going to have to be as aggressive as possible to try to get what they can out of it. I'm not sure how many attempts at a green-white checkered we're going to have if we do get a caution, but this restart, I think, is going to be the most chaotic that we've seen all night long.
Hopefully, though, we don't have to go to overtime. Hopefully, we get to this race at its scheduled distance, and it was numbered this way for a reason. We're going this distance on purpose for Dave Bush. Favorite number and the number he ran in leagues, number 53, 153 laps. So hopefully, we don't have to extend it. Hopefully, we finish it at the scheduled mark at 153. Tom Senchak, Brian Johnson, again, your front row, they have been virtually inseparable in the past couple of cautions. Kyle Heath has been doing his best to keep himself in third, with Garish Lipinski to his outside now in row number 2. Isaiah Sutherland still inside the top 5. Steven Stampian, Brandon Colley, Philip Bridgman, and Christopher Norris among those inside the rest of the top 10. And this is going to be an unbelievable restart. 3 laps to go, the final 6 or so miles from the Irish Hills of Brooklyn, Michigan, and it's all on Senchak, who has been hanging around the top 10 all night long to show what he's got in that late Apex Chevy Camaro and win this race. Pace car is down for what could be the final time. Senchak into the restart zone. Green flag with 3 laps to go.
And it wasn't a good restart, but he's going to get help now from the 54 of Heath. But it's going to be that outside line. Here comes Sutherland. He's going to look to make it 3 wide down into turn number 1. But Brian Johnson with the help from Slipinski on the outside. They're going to have a battle now into turn number 2. It's going to be Senchak with a much better entry into turn number 2. Side by side, 3 wide. Behind him, though, Sutherland, the 54 of Heath, Slipinski to the outside. But it's going to be Brian Johnson with the lead down the back straightaway.
And you can tell Sutherland wanted to get in the midst of the draft, but could not do so. Stempian shut the door. They're still side by side, roughly 3 or 4 rows deep. Senchak slides up the track. Johnson goes for the lead. We're 3 wide. Here comes Kyle Heath.
Here comes Heath, but also here comes the 53 of Stempian. 3 wide for second now. Stempian, Senchak, Johnson, Slipinski with a bump to the back of the 28. Heath to the lead in the 54 machine. 2 to go down here into turn number 1. Here comes Stempian with a dive. He's going to try to pull the slide job on the 28 of Brian Johnson, but here comes Senchak back to the inside trying to battle it out. Is a little bit of looseness from the 53 of Stempian. Senchak now to his inside down the back straightaway.
Senchak looked for the crossover somehow. Steven Stempian is back in contention for this race, but it is the 54 of Kyle Heath who will look out of turn 4 and see Barney the flagman waving the white. We'll have the last lap, the last 2 miles from Michigan.
Is anybody going to have anything for the 54 of Heath? He's got clean air. He's not being side drafted. He's trying to move around, break the draft. It's going to be side by side for second. Senchak into the inside of Stempian down here into turn number 1. Sutherland with a big move, 3 wide to the inside of the 28 of Brian Johnson. Down the back straightaway, still side by side for second. Heath is loving this halfway down the back straightaway.
Heath is going to have the shot to hold on to the lead. Stempian with the run of his life. He looks to the inside at a final chance in turn 3. He'll slide up the track. Heath will try and play offense, but the 53 of Steven Stempian in a Dave Bush car wins the life celebration of Dave Bush from Michigan.
The hero move from Steven Stimpy in turn number 4, licks the stamp, sends it down in there, pulls a perfect slide job on Kyle Heath, gets the win here, and what a fitting way to end this great event here tonight. Stimpian wins the stage, wins the race. The Dave Bush number 53 is going to be in victory lane here tonight, Kenneth. And man, what a race, what an event we had tonight.
We go the scheduled distance, 153 laps, and it is the 53 of Steven Stepien who gets the win. There's everybody giving their congratulations. You have to give it to guys like Kyle Heath, Sutherland, Johnson, Senchak. They gave it their all, and somehow, though, Steven Stepien finds a way to get back to the front. And what a finish. Stepien burns it down.
I lost for words. I mean, the emotions going through Steven Stepien right now. We talked to him at the start of the race, what this meant to him, racing that car number, this event, getting to burn it down. Cannot wait to talk to him, talk to our top 3 drivers. But man, we're going to step aside, catch our breath, take just lower our heart rates. We'll talk to our top 3, and that man right there burning it down in the 53 machine, Steven Stepien on the other side.
Resilient is a word you can you can use to describe Dave Bush, and it's also one that you can use to describe the winner of tonight's race from Michigan. It is the 53 of Steven Stempien in the Dave Bush car to a win at the end in the final laps. And Steven, I have to imagine, words cannot describe the emotions you're feeling right now. And what can you put into words for us?
Man, I not too often I'm speechless, but I honestly don't know how I made that stick on that move to try and make that happen, but I knew I was those last couple of laps. I just gave it all I had to, because I knew, it was. I don't even know what to say. It was. I didn't think I was gonna pull that off. But I mean, it was a hell of a finish. I mean, you can't write those. I mean, that's storybook ending right there.
I mean, Stephen, we talked to you at the start. You touched on how much this meant to you running his number. You get the win tonight, but I mean, walk us just the race in general. I mean, there was so much action, so much beating and banging, and then that last lap move. I mean, in general, what was the race like overall?
I mean, it was. I mean, hopefully we put on a good show. I hated all the cautions, but I guess that's just Michigan with the next gen right now, keeping everything tight. And there wasn't really much separation. I think when I got in the lead early on in the race, we had some good separation for a little bit, but once you get a caution, stack everybody back up, everybody's tight. You couldn't really do anything on the low line to make any moves, because just the high line was the way to be, especially with the draft. I'm sure you guys watched me a bunch of times tonight get hung out to dry like a Talladega race or a Daytona on the bottom. But yeah, it was definitely fun. Emotional, obviously. Dave's my guy. Hung out with him plenty of times for hours on end painting cars, and just happy that I could put this 53 in victory lane. I told him all week I was going to try to, and hell, man, it feels good. I still can't believe I was able to get that to stick on 3. I don't know.
It's the perfect setting. You can't script it any better than that. And Steven, that manifestation ends up coming up in the form of a win here from Michigan. On behalf of our entire broadcast team, Steven, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us. Again, congratulations on the win. Unbelievable job.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. And I appreciate everybody that came out in support of Dave. And I appreciate you guys putting on this show for us tonight for Dave. And obviously, we love Dave. And I know my wife wants to say,
I love you.
We love Dave. And obviously, I'm sure I'll be talking to him. I hope he was watching. And I'll chat with you guys later.
All the love to Dave. Steven Stempien, your winner in the Dave Bush Life Celebration race, and wins it in the colors that Dave Bush used to run on the sim. An outstanding job by Stempien to work his way up from, I think, beneath the top 5 to get to the front in the last handful of laps. We'll talk to the driver who comes home in P2 at the end of 153 circuits around Michigan. It's the 54 of Kyle Heath. And Kyle, first of all, I have to ask you what happened there in those final 2 laps. What was your perspective like?
My perspective was good. I should have drove it down a little bit deeper into turn 3, but Stempien was able to drive it in there and let it stick, and I wasn't able to hold him off. And my heart was beating the whole time. I'm pretty sure if you had one of those heartbeat sensors on me, my heart rate probably about 180, 190.
I mean, Kyle, you put on a heck of a show out there tonight, and we touched on that, what the heart rates were like for y'all out there tonight, with just how close and exciting that racing was. But I mean, the event overall, I mean, what are your feelings on this event and everything that transpired here tonight?
Man, it's so awesome to have this come up. I mean, it was just out the blue what Stempien did. This whole race was for Dave. It sucks we had so many cautions. It'd been good to have a couple of cautions here and there to stack the field back up. But all in all, I mean, it's just so great everybody come together for one person. It just lets you know that sometimes whenever you have an iRacing family, it becomes family.
We certainly appreciate the time. I know this race definitely meant a lot, and I know it's not the win, but second place Still a really good finish. Kyle, on behalf of our entire broadcast team, thank you so much for, first of all, racing tonight. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us, and wishing you the best of luck moving forward.
All right, thanks, guys. That was fun.
The 54 of Kyle Heath, who rolled off on the grid in P10, ends up second here from Michigan. We'll talk to the driver who wraps up our top three. It'll be the number 1 machine of Isaiah Sutherland. And Isaiah, you had a shot at P1 throughout this race. You had some clean air, but then fell back to third. Were there any methods that you had in those final 2 laps to try and get this race win?
Oh man, I about blacked out. I think for half a second. That was some of the craziest racing there with the last, I don't know, 15, 10 laps. We put on a good show for Dave. Shout out to him, man. We all love Dave Bush there, and hope we put on a good show for him. But I don't know if you restarted on the bottom, it was going to be very tough to make passes because you really wanted to be in that second lane up there and carry that momentum around. So we restarted somehow, some way. I put my shoulders out, got up to that top lane, and with 2 to go, I just going into 1 to 2, I just wide opened it up the top and got him behind Stimp, gave him a big run and followed him through. I would have liked one more lap there to see what we could have done because my car was sticking great on the bottom, but and I'm happy with third. I'm happy to be a part of this thing for Dave.
You know, Isaiah, speaking of sticking on the bottom, I mean, my question to you, and I saw it pretty much all night, you were one of the few cars who ran the bottom a majority of the race. I mean, is that just where you were comfortable at here at Michigan, or was there some strategy to that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone, once they got to the position they wanted to be, they were running that middle lane, and it was just a big train, and there was so many checkups. And honestly, I felt like that I felt the middle lane was horrible for your tires. I really felt like that, especially on long runs. So I would try to enter the turn middle to low underneath people and then slide back up behind them on the exit of the turn. And I really feel like what I was doing there was saving my tire because at the end, people were sliding up the track on the exit of the turns. I'd be able to turn below them and carry speed. It's just tough when everyone moves up by the wall and you're too wide on the inside. You don't have any draft in front of you. So I definitely feel like I had a really good car that would turn, especially on long runs, just because I was running the bottom line more. And I was able to throw it in on people. And while they were getting tight in the middle of the turn, I'd already have them clear. And then I could slide up in front of them. So that was a little bit of a strategy I had figured out is just running that bottom. It felt like my tires were actually wearing the correct way they needed to give me grip there at the end.
So a huge race for you, Isaiah, and I know that the third place finish does still feel good here from Michigan in this race for Dave Bush. On behalf of our entire broadcast team, like we said with the other top 2 finishers, congratulations on the finish. Thank you for taking some time to talk with us. We really appreciate it and wishing you the best of luck moving forward.
10-4, buddy.
So that is Isaiah Sutherland in the 1 machine. And regardless of who you speak to, whether it's Steven Stempian, your race winner, whether it's Kyle Heath in second, whether it's Sutherland in third, or whether it's all the other drivers in this race, Trevor, there's one thing and one thing only in mind, and that is Dave Bush as he continues to fight with lung cancer. And all of our love to him, to his family, to everyone, to all of his friends. And I know that these drivers put it all on the line for him, and they provided us with an amazing race that we'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers, obviously, with Dave and his whole family as they go through this. And, you know, everybody that turned out tonight putting on a great show, as we'll get a look at our standings here in a few seconds. But, I mean, you just can't say enough, Kenneth, about the type of show that everybody put on for us here tonight.
That's definitely true. We'll walk through the top 10 before we close things off here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It's Steven Stempian in the Dave Bush, number 53 Camaro, who gets to the victory after 153 scheduled laps. Kyle Heath is second at the stripe. Isaiah Sutherland to wrap up your top 3. Then goes Brian Johnson. You have to give credit to that Toyota Camry, the number 28, who had been fast all race long. And then goes Senchak in his number 8 machine. Then goes Crawford in the number 74. And then goes Christopher Norris inside the top 8 or so. And then goes Philip Bridgman in the number 48. Tyler Dengler in his car. Isaac Mock in the 47. Throughout P11 on back.
Yeah, and further on down there, you got Kevin Roy, who we didn't talk about much in the 12 machine, got caught up in a wreck late, was able to recover there, almost got a top 10 for himself. Chris Pfaff, we saw a couple of times, was involved in the first caution of the race, actually, after a stack up on the restart. does a great job recovering. I think he was involved in another incident or so, recovering up to a top 15. But I mean, further on down, Brandon Hartwell, he was up front for a little bit in the 25 machine, got caught up in a couple of incidents down there in 21st. Mark Whitley, I mean, was a heavy hitter, Kenneth, at one point in this race. Up front there with a couple of those guys, and all the way down there in 24th, along with Cedric Hunter, who went for a late spin as well down there in 26th. And then you're down at the bottom, Zach Duscher in the 5 after a great early run for him. His night goes kind of all pear-shaped after a bunch of late race incidents out in 29th. Ryan Bird out earlier on after a good run from him early on. And then Zach Hall, who we didn't really get to see much of apart from that technical issue that I believe brought out our second or third caution of the night for himself all the way down in 31st. But overall, I mean, you couldn't ask for more of a race. We saw everything beating and banging, spectacular saves, in a great finish for a great event, a great cause. I mean, this race had, I think, everything we all could have asked for here tonight.
That is definitely true, and just an amazing race altogether. And Robert, I'm going to bring you back in one last time before we close out tonight's show. Your thoughts on tonight's race for Michigan?
My thoughts for tonight's race here at Michigan. You guys noted on it, and I would just try to, second everything that you guys are saying. Thank you to everybody out there who has supported it, from all the leagues to the drivers and everybody on the iRacing community side of things. Everybody who has donated and helped them, help Dave out. We do much appreciate it, as they're going to be going through some rough times. But hopefully them rough times ain't until farther in the future and something changes. But, last I want to say to Dave, if you're listening and you're watching, we love you, man. And you hang in there, you be safe, and you do what you need to do. And God is with you. But with that being said, we're going to get ready to close out this program. Trevor, Ken, is there any last final thoughts that you would like to say here before we wrap this broadcast up?
Other than just what a race, what a finish, 53's in victory lane, and obviously everybody's thoughts, everybody's hearts are with Dave Bush and his family, and so much. It's so fun to watch these races, and it was so awesome, Trevor, to see the whole sim racing community gather for this event. Whether it was the driver in first or the driver all the way in last, they came out for one reason and one reason only, for Dave. And just like Robert said, we wish the best for him, and of course all the love to him and his family as well.
Yeah, I'm going to echo the same thoughts as you. Obviously, all our thoughts and prayers with Dave and his entire family. And you can't say enough about the iRacing community and what that means to be a part of it. It just, makes me, and I'm sure Robert and yourself, so happy to be a part of such a great community that'll turn out for an event like this when somebody's going through such a terrible time. But I mean, what a great event overall tonight. I know Stimpian is emotional but happy, and you couldn't have scripted a better race and finish for what we were doing here tonight. But I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was just a great event overall. And Robert, we'll turn it over to you one last time for your final thoughts, and
All right.
you can wrap it up for us.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Ken, for taking your time out of your Sunday night to do this. Trevor, thank you very much for taking your time out to do this. But ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we have a storybook race here at Michigan International Speedway at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, as we're going to have Steven Stempian in the number 53 car bring home the victory after 153 laps. You can't script it up any better than that. So congratulations again, Steven Stempian. With that being said, our next televised broadcast will be Monday night with the Truck Series. So make sure you tune in all next week. And the only way not to miss any of our action is to hit that like button and subscribe button on YouTube. But until the next one, we want to say to Dave Bush and his family, God bless you. We love yous, and we'll catch everybody on the next show. And for Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you very much. See everybody later. God bless.